allow me to inform that our conference today will be divided into 3 expert panels addressing the digital transformation agenda and progress in the infrastructure, society, government, and economy. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to commence the G20 Digital Transformation Expo parallel event, Digital Industry Collaboration to Enhancing Digital Transformation, we would like to invite ITF representative Mrs. Widyasari Listiowulan to deliver the welcoming remarks. Can we have a round of big applause, ladies and gentlemen, to Mrs. Widyasari Listiowulan. The time is yours.
Is quite nervous, so apologize. I think I have to, I just take this. Thanks. So, Om Swastiastu, Assalamualaikum, Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Widya. I'm actually from Traveloka, but on behalf of the Industry Task Force, I would like to welcome all of you to our event today, especially for those who travel to Bali for the first time, which I doubt, but it's on the script. So I have to say welcome to Bali. All right, so first and foremost, allow me to express my gratitude to Ibu Mira Tayyiba, Secretary General of the MICT, as well as the Chair for DEWG. I also would like to welcome Pak Igede Indra Dewa Putra, Pak Setiaji, and Pak Niko Harjanto, who is on the way. Good morning. And also my colleague at ITF, and of course the leader of industries. Good morning, everybody. Now, please allow me to provide a very short remark. I promise this is very short. It's only 10 pages. But this is very important because I would like to highlight that perhaps most of you know that there is a significant presence of digital and tech companies during the G20 DEWG series that Ibu Mira has kindly allowed us to participate at the forum. Now, our participation here is organized under the banner of Digital Industry Task Force, also known as ITF. This task force is initiated by both Kominfo and industry players, as well as one of the biggest associations here in Indonesia, with 2 main objectives. First, to support the convening of the G20, especially the DEWG meeting series, and the second, to showcase how the ICT environment in Indonesia, while competitive, also display a strong collaboration when it comes to improving digital Indonesia transformation. Now, I like to quote the CEO of GoToko yesterday when we had a conversation that no matter what, collaboration with compassion is the key. So yeah, I think that's our tagline for ITF. So today's event carries a similar message, structured around the main pillar of MICT transformation roadmap that has 4 segments: infrastructure, economy, society, and government. So today, ladies and gentlemen, all of our panels are the experts of industry leaders who would like to share their thought and their vision on how private sector collaborate for the goal of Indonesia digital transformation. This is also somewhat aligned with the Digital Economy Minister Chair summary that will be elaborated by Ibu Mira Tayyiba today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, some of you here will also attend the DTE Expo today, and this event is actually the side event of DTE. And this collaboration, ladies and gentlemen, is one of many, many collaboration of Industry Task Force. Now, Ibu Mira, please allow me to greet our ITF fellow today from Bukalapak, from Halodoc, from ABCI, AWS, Zoom, GoToko, Gudang Ada, Telkom Indonesia, and of course, Traveloka. Once again, thank you so much for coming, and I hope all of you have a very fruitful discussion. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi Santi Om.
Thank you to Widyasari Listio Wulan for the opening remarks this morning. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the second remarks of the day is the remarks from the Vice Governor of Bali that will be delivered by Secretary Assistant of Bali. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bapak Igede Indra Dewa Putra SEMM.
Bapak Ibu sekalian yang saya hormati, kami permohonkan Bapak Gubernur tidak bisa hadir langsung pada kesempatan yang baik ini karena beliau ada beberapa agenda padat dalam rangka G20, ada Bapak Presiden dan menyambut para kepala negara di bandara. Bapak Wakil Gubernur juga, beliau juga padat membagi tugas dengan Bapak Gubernur sehingga kami ditugaskan menghadiri sekaligus mohon izin membacakan sambutan Gubernur Bali dalam bahasa Indonesia. Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Salam, namo buddhaya, rahayu. Yang saya hormati Menteri Komunikasi dan Informatika beserta jajaran yang hadir, Ibu Sekjen, terima kasih kehadiran Ibu Sekjen. Pimpinan dan jajaran Kementerian Pusat dan Kepala Pemerintah Daerah, pimpinan dan jajaran Industri Task Force, pimpinan dan jajaran perusahaan dan startup bidang infrastruktur digital dan ekonomi digital. Undangan, narasumber, moderator dan seluruh peserta yang hadir. Marilah kita di pagi yang cerah ini, kita memanjatkan puji syukur kehadapan Ide Yang Widiwasa, Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena atas asung kertawaru nugerahnya kita bisa hadir dalam keadaan sehat pada seminar kolaborasi industri dan startup digital dalam meningkatkan transformasi digital. Saya mengucapkan terima kasih atas inisiatif pihak industri Task Force sebagai wadah bagi perusahaan dan startup digital Indonesia untuk menyelenggarakan kegiatan seminar ini sebagai upaya menjalin kolaborasi antara industri digital dan pemerintah. Kolaborasi ini diharapkan terjalin semakin kuat antara perusahaan dan startup digital baik di bidang infrastruktur digital dan ekonomi digital bersama-sama dengan pemerintah dalam meningkatkan transformasi digital. Bapak Ibu hadirin yang saya hormati, dalam rangka mewujudkan visi Nangun Satkirti Loko Bali melalui pola pembangunan semesta berencana menuju Bali era baru, pemerintah Bali sedang melakukan upaya menyeimbangkan struktur dan fundamental perekonomian Bali, di mana selama ini cenderung didominasi oleh satu sektor pariwisata. Salah satu upaya yang dilakukan dengan mendorong tumbuh dan berkembangnya ekonomi kreatif dan digital sebagai bagian kebijakan dari ekonomi Kerti Bali. Kami sangat menyadari bahwa potensi ekonomi kreatif dan digital sangat tinggi, di mana saat ini masih belum atau mungkin hanya baru sedikit yang bisa dinikmati Bali. Inilah yang menjadi salah satu tantangan serius dalam penyelenggaraan pembangunan Bali saat ini. Teknologi digital agar ditempatkan tidak hanya sebagai supporting atau pendukung, namun juga sebagai enabler dan bahkan sebagai driver dalam pembangunan Bali. Saat ini, hampir semua sektor kehidupan terjalin hubungan ke dunia digital. Menunjuk pada laporan Essential Digital Headlines Indonesia tahun 2022, pengguna internet Indonesia mencapai 73,7%, atau setara dengan 200,7 juta jiwa dari seluruh populasi. Dibandingkan tahun sebelumnya, pertumbuhan tertinggi terjadi pada pengguna layanan media sosial yang tumbuh 12,1% atau setara tambahan sekitar 21 juta jiwa. Jika terdahulu kita terbiasa dengan semboyan bangun tidurku terus mandi, saat ini kekuatan digital semboyan tersebut berubah menjadi bangun tidur terus cek status, cek berita, cek notifikasi dan sejenisnya. Apabila kita melihat tren pertumbuhan kepemilikan perangkat TIK tercatat meningkat signifikan pada kepemilikan perangkat yang mendukung smart home, perangkat virtual reality, smartwatch, dan perangkat TV streaming. Jika terdahulu kita meminjam CD, DVD player di rental, saat ini semua layanan tersebut telah dapat dinikmati hanya dalam genggaman perangkat mobile pengguna, termasuk informasi. Hampir seluruhnya atau sekitar 96% pengguna internet di Indonesia memiliki perangkat mobile. Dengan demikian, setiap orang pengguna internet menjadi begitu mudah terhubung dengan layanan dan informasi. Jika tantangan tersebut adalah bagaimana tantangan terdahulu bagaimana mendapatkan informasi, tantangan sekarang beralih menjadi bagaimana memfilter informasi. Seluruh layanan menjadi terhubung ke internet atau istilah sekarang Internet by Things. Hadirin yang saya hormati, pengembangan layanan diantaranya augmented reality, virtual reality, serta layanan berbasis cloud service akan semakin masif ke depannya. Peningkatan layanan membutuhkan infrastruktur yang handal, teknologi 5G dan seterusnya, serta layanan dikembangkan di layer atasnya, memberi dampak yang signifikan terhadap cara masyarakat berinteraksi. Pengembangan diharapkan memberikan solusi, inovasi, serta membawa arah baru bagi pembangunan Bali. Akhirnya diharapkan mampu meningkatkan kualitas hidup masyarakat dan membawa transformasi positif dalam mewujudkan Bali era baru. Kami menyadari salah satu faktor kunci dalam mempercepat transformasi ekonomi kreatif dan digital di Bali adalah menjalin kolaborasi seluas-luasnya dengan berbagai pemangku kepentingan. Kegiatan seminar kolaborasi antara pemerintah, industri, dan startup digital hari ini menjadi salah satu bentuk implementasinya. Kami berharap kolaborasi selanjutnya semakin intens, baik dalam pengembangan layanan, pengembangan SDM, peningkatan pemanfaatan teknologi yang berkesinambungan bagi masyarakat. Hadirin yang berbahagia, demikian yang dapat kami sampaikan dengan harapan akselerasi pembangunan ekosistem ekonomi kreatif dan digital di Bali, apapun bentuknya, harus tetap menjaga, menghormati, memberikan manfaat yang seluas-luasnya kepada 3 fundamental pembangunan Bali, yaitu alam Bali, manusia Bali, dan kebudayaan Bali untuk mewujudkan Bali yang berkualitas dan berkelanjutan. Selamat atas pelaksanaan seminar kolaborasi industri dan startup digital dalam meningkatkan transformasi digital di Bali dan Indonesia. Sekian, terima kasih. Om Santi 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 Om. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Gubernur Bali, Wayan Koster.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have round of big applause for the welcoming remarks from the Vice Governor of Bali, delivered by the Secretary Assistant of Bali. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to kindly invite the Secretary General of the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology of Indonesia to deliver the keynote speech and DEWG dissemination. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Her Excellency Mira Tayyiba.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning, everyone. It is an honor for me to be here in this joyous occasion organized by the Industry Task Force, or ITF, of the G20 Digital Economy Working Group, or DEWG. I would like to convey warmest regard from the Minister, Bapak Johnny G. Plate, and his regret that he could not join us today. On this juncture, I would like to greet Bapak Niko Haryanto, Special Staff of the Minister of State Secretary Republic of Indonesia, and Bapak I Gede Indra Dewa Putra, Bali Regional Secretary Assistant, as well as our panelists of our discussion today, the leaders of the digital industry, Bapak Setiaji, Bapak Muhammad Arif, Bapak Teddy, Bapak Steven Sang, Ibu Veronica, Bapak Gurnor Singh Dillon, Bapak Riza Rukmana, Bapak Max Peterson, Ibu Fristi Flies, dan Bapak Igusti Ngurah Puspa Udiana, the Bali Province Diskominfo. I am truly glad to see familiar faces and would like to welcome several new ones that I've never seen in person before, especially to those who have come a long way to Indonesia. I hope you may find yourself enjoying your time in Bali, Indonesia's island of gods, amidst the G20 Summit 2022 under the Indonesia's G20 presidency. Since its inception back in May this year, the ITF has been a key partner of the Indonesian's Ministry of Communications and Informatics Kominfo as the leading sector of the EWG under Indonesia's G20 presidency, particularly in the convening of the EWG's series of meetings, including the G20 Digital Economy Ministers Meeting, or DEMM, that we held back in September. As the chair of the EWG, I would like to thank the ITF for its continued support, and I sincerely wish this bond of cooperation may continue and grow as a robust, long-lasting collaboration between the government and the business industry sector, especially in the field of digital technology. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia diverges the discussion of the G20 presidency into two tracks, as we know, the finance track and the Sherpa track. The finance track focuses the discussion in areas related to finance, and the Sherpa track addresses non-financial issues, including digital economy. Under the Indonesia's G20 presidency 2022, the Sherpa track raises three priority agendas, namely an inclusive global health architecture, digital-based transformation, and sustainable energy transition. As the ministry in charge of the EWG, as well as the leading sector in digital-related issues in Indonesia, Kominfo is of the view that our G20 presidency could contribute greatly to the agenda of achieving collective and stronger global recovery through digital transformation. On this note, the DEWG works as the focal point for issues related to digital-based transformation. Based on the mandate and priority issues, we have mapped digital issues across the working groups and engagement groups that spread out across 18 working groups and engagement groups. Ladies and gentlemen, we recognize that the development of technology, internet access, and the creation of flow of data are strongly influenced by stakeholders. We believe that collaboration among stakeholders is the key to bridging the existing gap and addressing impartiality and inequitable digital transformation. Adopting the theme of achieving a resilient recovery, working together for a more inclusive, empowering, and sustainable digital transformation, which is derived from the Indonesia's G20 presidency theme, Recover Together, Recover Stronger. There are three priority issues that the EWG has tabled. connectivity and post-COVID-19 recovery, digital skills and digital literacy, and cross-border data flow and data free flow with trust. The DEWG focus on digital transformation is also in alignment with the 3 priorities of Indonesia's G20 presidency. Substantive discussions on the DEWG priority issues took place from March to September. Actually, we discussed since last year, so it is more than a year process, but the event itself that we held started from March. So our event in the form of pre-event workshops and kick-off meetings that preceded the main sessions. We had 4 main sessions, 2 additional sessions, the intersessional sessions, 3 side events, and 1 ministerial level meeting. The 4 main DEWG meetings were held in several regions, Lombok, Yogyakarta, Labuan Bajo, and Bali. And once again, I'm thankful for ITF contribution throughout the series of events of the DEWG. Through a series of the DEWG meetings, with the Digital Economy Ministers meeting as the final meeting, the discussion and negotiation process on the 3 priority issues has been concluded. However, since no consensus was reached among G20 members regarding geopolitical issues, the presidency issued an outcome document in the form of a chair summary, which reflects the result of discussion and the views of G20 member countries on the 3 priority issues. In the first part, the chair summary conveys the diverging views of the G20 members in the proposed narrative in regard to the issue of geopolitical tension within the draft of the declaration. We, Indonesia Presidency and the DEWG, stand firm to Indonesia's foreign policy of bebas aktif, or independent and active, and to maintain impartiality. In the second part of the chair's summary, we convey that G20 members have reached consensus on all priority issues, including appreciation for discussions on digital issues that are carried out across working groups and engagement groups. This section also notes the G20 members' acknowledgement of the efforts of the Indonesia's G20 presidency to initiate discussions on the principles of fairness, lawfulness, and transparency as Indonesia's contribution to the development of global-level data governance. With regards to the first DEWG priority issue on connectivity and post-COVID-19 recovery, Indonesia emphasizes on the dimensions in which people-digital connectivity could be sustained to quickly recover from the current pandemic. On this note, Indonesia emphasizes the importance of not only accessible connectivity through the deployment of digital infrastructure, but also the gravity of human-centric approach to close the digital divide, connecting the unconnected and leave no one behind. Improving the resilience of our global community during and post-COVID-19 pandemic, as stated in the report of stocktaking on the extended concept and shared understanding of digital connectivity. The rising use of internet and the flow of data also increases the vulnerability and threats in the digital realm. In 2020, 37 billion data breaches were recorded, and it is expected that the global cybercrime cost could reach $10.5 trillion annually by 2025. This situation underscores the urgency to strengthen cybersecurity and data protection. Therefore, the Indonesian G20 presidency has compiled a collection of existing digital security practices carried out by G20 members. Name the collection of existing practices on digital security as a key enabler to support business continuity. At the same time, we realize that there are many kinds of digital solutions and innovations might support the acceleration of digital transformation. On this note, we encourage collaboration between digital industry players, startups, venture capitals, corporations, and governments through the G20 Digital Innovation Network. And yesterday, we also witnessed the launch of the G20 Digital Transformation Expo, or DTE, that is open for everyone to visit until November 17, so we still have time. This expo will serve as a platform to showcase the spirit of collaboration, exhibiting the digital transformation achievements of the G20 members and demonstrating achievements in the digital field to open up opportunities for cooperation, investment, and collaboration. In collaboration with the ITU, International Telecommunication Union, DEWG has consolidated supports of G20 members for Smart Village and Smart Island to address the socio-economic challenges faced by rural and coastal communities through digital transformation, which encourages meaningful participation of vulnerable groups. Distinguished guests, on the second DEWG priority issue, digital skills and digital literacy, Indonesia has consolidated the G20 members' views and supports on the importance of developing digital skills and digital literacy as key aspects in the development of digital economy. The development of these key aspects may provide opportunities toward a more inclusive digital economy in the long term, where no one is left behind and the participation of vulnerable groups is ensured. G20 members welcome the collection of policies and recommendations to improve meaningful participation of people in vulnerable situations in the digital economy, which explained the practices of G20 members in encouraging an inclusive digital economic ecosystem, especially for vulnerable and underrepresented groups. We believe that prior deploying efforts to increase digital skill and literacy at both national and international level, it is necessary to measure the level of digital skills and literacy of each country. Therefore, the presidency provides an opportunity to exchange views and discussions to develop the G20 toolkit for measuring digital skills and digital literacy, a compilation of reports, to become a guide that can be used by countries and in measuring digital skills and literacy and meeting the needs of digital talent today and future, as well as to identify the gender gap in digital technology. We realize the importance of the right policies and adequate digital infrastructure in response to the needs of today and future digital talent. In order to achieve this goal, we have prepared a compendium of frameworks, of practices and policies on advanced digital skills and digital literacy as a report providing an analysis of the G20 members' report to improve digital skills and literacy in their respective countries. Distinguished guests of today's Industry Task Force seminar, last year in 2021, UNTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, projected global traffic data to surge from 230 exabytes in 2020 to 780 exabytes by 2026. The projection signifies that the role of digital data at this age has never been this vital. Our present and future will depend on how data can be used effectively. In addition to that, the use of digital identity in digital activities and digital transactions, while prioritizing data security and digital data for development and efforts to combat crime, is evident to the importance of data. Our third DEWG priority issue concerning data free flow with trust and cross-border data flow facilitated constructive and inclusive discussions on addressing the challenges in data governance. This issue is important as it has been consistently discussed in past presidencies, and it reflects the forum's efforts to create better data optimization in order to realize a just digital transformation. The DEWG has discussed documents pertaining existing practices on cross-border data flow activities to identify common values carried out by G20 members. These practices and common values have been consolidated through stock-taking existing data governance approaches to identify common values for data free flow with trust and cross-border data flow, and workshop of multi-stakeholder dialogue on identifying measures to facilitate the different levels of understanding of data governance, to facilitate cross-stakeholder discussion on the issue of cross-border data flows. Furthermore, we recognize the importance of discussion on the use and development of an interoperable digital identity framework that is in line with a human-centric approach in facilitating digital identity solutions. In collaboration with the OECD, the EWG compiled a document containing an analysis of key issues that need attention by G20 members through a report on identifying key enablers for digital identity. The Indonesian G20 presidency has also introduced 3 main principles related to cross-border data flow: fairness, lawfulness, and transparency, and initiated discussions on other related principles set by regional and multilateral institutions, as well as practical approaches that are able to underlie the operationalization of cross-border data flows. So in short, we already produce a number of deliverables, and we will make sure that the deliverables are accessible to us here, so we can, share the discussion with the G20 members to be used by the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, the discussion and negotiation process of the DEWG has generated 12 concrete deliverables that, in general, encourage that commitment of G20 members to usher and transform us into digital era to recover from the post-COVID-19. As the series of the EWG and DEMM has been concluded, the efforts to realize an inclusive, empowering, and sustainable digital transformation continues. Kominfo is committed to follow up the conclusion and outcomes of the EWG and DEMM through several steps. First, contributing to the success of the Digital Transformation Expo in the margin of G20 Bali Summit 2022, grounding the message of the DEWG and the G20 Summit through strategic public communications. Bu Widya, I think this is something that we potentially collaborate in the future. Disseminating the outcome of the EWG to the national knowledge partners, amplification of key takeaways from the process and outcome of the EWG to the education sector through national knowledge partners, implementing the outcome of the EWG with national strategic stakeholders, that is APG, Mastel, IDEA, and many more, and continue to strengthen synergies with industry players through the EWG's Industry Task Force for other strategic agendas related to digital transformation. And it is my utmost optimism that through a strong collaboration as proven through this event, we can find solutions and opportunities to expedite global digital transformation. I'm looking forward to a prolific discussions on digital industry collaboration to enhancing digital transformation today, and how together we can bring about scalable changes in our digital society. Thank you, terima kasih, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Om Santi 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 Om.
Thank you, Her Excellency, Madam Mira Tayyiba, for the keynote speech and DEWG dissemination. We would like to invite you to please remain on stage, ma'am, as we are about to continue our next agenda with the giving of token of appreciation. So we would like to kindly invite once again to join us to the stage Secretary General of the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology of Indonesia, Her Excellency Mira Tayyiba. And also, we would like to invite Secretary Assistant of Bali Province, Bapak Igede Indra Dewa Putra SAMM. We would like to invite ITF Representative Teddy Utomo, President of Bukalapak. We would like to invite Chairman of APJI, Mr. Muhammad Arif Angga. Ladies and gentlemen, on this occasion, Mr. Arif Angga will hand the token of appreciation to Secretary Assistant of Bali Province, Bapak Igede Indra Dewa Putra SAMM. And Mr. Teddy Utomo will hand the token of appreciation to Secretary General of the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, to have a token of memories of this remarkable moment, let us have a photo group together. Please be in position. And don't forget to give your best smile, ladies and gentlemen, on my count together. Everyone look at the camera. On 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay. Maybe we can try another pose, yeah? Another pose. Okay. Freestyle. On my count, on the count of 3, let's do different pose. 1, 2, 3, cheers. Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite to join for the photo session all of our speakers today. Honorable guests, please remain on stage. We would like to invite our speakers, Veronica Sari Utami, Dr. Riza A.N. Rukmana, Stephen Sang, Gurnor Singh Dillon, Max Peterson, Setiaji, Igusti Ngurah Puspa Udiana, and Christy Fliss to join for the photo session this morning. Bapak, we would like to invite to join for the photo session. Everyone, let's take a position. Don't forget to show your best smile. On my count together, 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe on the count of 3, everyone will say Bali, since we are here in the beautiful island Bali. Okay, together, let's say Bali. 1, 2, 3, Bali! Okay, can we have a round of big applause, ladies and gentlemen, for this remarkable moment on the stage today. Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished guests, all of the speakers. You may have a seat, and thank you for joining us for the photo session this morning. Such a beautiful moment to capture on this very special event. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, with the spirit of recover together, recover stronger, and the spirit of collaboration between industries, we hope together we can reach the full potential of Indonesia's digital transformation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will watch a very special video that will show us the spirit of our industries who come together to really enhance the digital transformation in Indonesia. A video brought to you by Industry Task Force.
Indonesia has become one of the world's largest and most vibrant digital economies. This could only materialize with the synergy between the government and industry stakeholders that drive this trend forward. With 73% of the population, or approximately 204.7 million people connected to the internet, Indonesia has seen an unparalleled economic opportunity in the digital sector. In 2019, the digital economy reached 40 billion, a five-fold increase since 2014. The pandemic even accelerated it to an unprecedented level, where the value jumped from 47 billion US dollars to 70 billion US dollars between 2020 and 2021, and is estimated to reach more than 146 billion US dollars 3 years from now. With these positive trends, the Ministry of Communication and Informatics has played a critical role in improving Indonesia's digital ecosystem, allowing a more connected, faster, secure, and reliable digital environment. As Kominfo sets up the catalyst for growth in the digital ecosystem, the local Indonesian startups and digital tech companies serve as the engines of the digital economy acceleration in Indonesia. These local and global companies' contributions create synergy and have brought significant impacts in various sectors, especially amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. First, the digitalization of these companies has added a new breadth to micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSME, empowerment. Startups in e-commerce and financial technology have allowed the creation of new MSMEs and adjustment of traditional MSMEs to utilize digital products or platforms, not only to promote and sell their products or services, but also to overcome the financial barriers so everyone will have wider access to expand their business regardless where they live. In tourism, the pandemic has also created new ways of traveling while maintaining health protocols. Traveloka ensured that all hotels adopted cleanliness, health, safety, and environmental sustainable, or CHSE. The demand for flexible tickets, be it for transport or entertainment, would allow more freedom for people to arrange activities amidst the pandemic. Tech companies also help introduce the gig ecosystem and new ways of working with technology. In Indonesia, this is translated with the creation of more jobs at a faster rate, improving the livelihoods of millions of people and helping nudge micro-entrepreneurs to grow simultaneously by accessing and utilizing this technology. Revolutionizing key sectors. The tech companies in Indonesia also have broken traditional boundaries in providing services in vital sectors such as education, health, and agriculture or fisheries. Telemedicine has helped millions of people that cannot access health services properly amidst the pandemic to get medical attention. EduTech has also supported children in a remote learning program, ensuring there would not be a learning loss despite the school lockdown. Meanwhile, in the agriculture or fisheries sector, startup companies are pioneering technology adoption for local fish and shrimp farmers with a complete end-to-end platform, allowing them to increase productivity across the supply chain and consequently essential in safeguarding food security in the country. Building and improving tech infrastructure. Eventually, these sectors have been supported by tech companies that lay the backbone digital infrastructure for all the startups and tech companies to operate. Telco companies contributed to the fast, reliable, and affordable internet access for all, while cloud computing companies provide digital infrastructure to Indonesian companies to improve productivity, lower costs, and increase scalability in their journey to leverage digital technologies.
Ladies and gentlemen, a video by ITF Industry Task Force. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today we reach to the first panel session of the G20 DTE Parallel event, Digital Industry Collaboration to Enhance Digital Transformation. For your information, once again, ladies and gentlemen, our conference today will be divided into 3 expert panels, where each panel will be given 50 minutes of time. Ladies and gentlemen, our first expert panel session will outline the matters on building digital infrastructure and society, where we will discuss about the role of digital infrastructure and how digital infrastructure enhance digital adoption and emerging technologies. And also, we will discuss the shaping of the digital infrastructure in Indonesia, about the challenges, gaps, and opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce our moderator for the first expert panel. She is the Vice President of Traveloka. Please welcome Mrs. Widyasari Listiowulan.
So now you know that I don't like mic, right? So I really don't like microphone. But anyway, this will be my last talking on the stage, so don't worry. But ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you Ibu Mira Tayyiba for the wonderful remark, as well as the explanation of the result of DEWG. And I think that will be the anchor of our discussion today. Now, we're lucky today, ladies and gentlemen, that we have lots of industries leaders under the ITF that are present here. And we would like to hear their thoughts, their vision, and their prediction on how actually industry would help government and society to develop the big goal of Indonesia digital transformation. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite 3 panels today. But first of all, let me provide you a little bit of context. Now, in the back of the audience, you see there are wonderful students from one of the tech university here. And I think terima kasih Bapak. Pak Gede also mentioned that before, and this has to be in Bahasa Indonesia, we say sandang, papan, pangan, pangan, papan, sandang, right? And now we say sandang, pangan, papan, and connectivity, right? And before we say bangun tidur, ku terus mandi, waking up, and then you have to take shower. Now bangun tidur, ku terus check the status, right? So it's common, especially those behind that auditorium, which are all of them are students. So ladies and gentlemen, digital industry, digital infrastructure, digital society are intertwined. Without, and actually the pandemic has proven, without connectivity, without the right digital infrastructure, then there will be no digital society. So what about moving forward? What about the future? Are we still moving to the right path? Do we still need to have a very strong connectivity, a very strong collaboration with compassion among the industry? We will see very, very soon. Now, our first speaker, Mas Arif, Muhammad Arif, is the chairman of one of the biggest association in Indonesia, the Association of Internet Users. And you know, under ABCI, we know that we have more than 210 million of internet user. Then 850. Okay, you will correct the stat later on, ya Mas ya. But that shows that, you know, more than half of our citizens is actually very, very internet savvy, right? So I'd like to invite Mas Arif to come on the stage, Mas, please. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for him. Thank you. Thank you, Mas. How are you? Now, second speaker is the president of Bukalapak, Mas Teddy. Everybody knows him. He's quite prominent leader, prominent speaker. I'm sure you know him very, very well. And I just realized that this is actually his third professional path. The first is lecturer. So I'm getting more nervous here, having a very, senior lecturer on the stage, right? And the second career path is a banker. Now we'll see how, lecturer and banker can create a big impact on industry, forecast in digital. Mas Teddy, come ahead, please. Thank you. Round of applause for Mas Teddy, please. Now we talk about digital infrastructure that impact to, the rise of UMKM and the rise of digital society. And of course, as you all know, pandemic shows you how, the connectivity is important and how health become a very, very crucial, essential thing in our life, right? And today I'd like to invite and this is very great because we will have another leader who is female talking on the stage from Halodoc. Our wonderful Mbak Vero from Halodoc, the CEO of Halodoc. Please come on stage, Mbak Vero. Ladies and gentlemen, big applause for our three speakers, and I need to sit down as well. Would you like to sit here, Mbak? Cool. Here is fine. Yeah. So we have a solid frame if we sit closer to each other. So, Mas Arif, how are you, Mas Arif?
Fine.
Thank you for coming here. Thank you. Do we have more microphone here? Okay, thank you. Okay, so Mas Arif, I think the first question would go to you, and I'm sorry to bring the wrong stat. I hope you can revise the stat on internet user, right? But we talk about digital infrastructure here, Mas, and how do you see the importance of digital infrastructure and the internet user of Indonesia to boost digital transformation? And if you may say a little bit on your experience to see, that the rise of internet users, the pro and cons throughout the pandemic and moving forward. Over to you, Mas.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Widya. So maybe I will correct you a little bit. So the APJI is the Internet Association for ISP provider in Indonesia. So our member right now is 850 ISP, maybe around in Indonesia. So I think it is the largest number of ISP in one country. Yeah. As we know, maybe in other countries like Singapore or even in the US, maybe just 5 ISP in that country. So in Indonesia, we have like 850. Yeah. So this is a very, very big number because we have the large country and I think our geography is a little bit difficult. So right now, maybe you saw in the video, the internet is 70% of the population of Indonesia, but actually APJI has updated data. So right now in 2022, we have like 70%, so around 210 million people already connect to the internet. But of course, we still have the gap like 20-something% that our people still not connect to the internet. So this is our PR lah ya, how to boost our internet penetration rate in Indonesia. So actually before pandemic, our data is like internet penetration is around 170 something. So between 1.5 years, that's increased like 40 million people internet user. So maybe I will let you a little story about how the internet increased here. So before the pandemic, maybe we only, the internet broadband in our home, we call it like retail industry or something like that. So before pandemic, maybe only the house is, class A or class B have the broadband internet connection. But right now, after the pandemic, even, I don't know how to say in English, but in gang-gang sempit gitu ya. Yeah, yes. Many new provider, the small provider, develop the fiber optic to the small house in the even the car cannot enter. There is still a fiber optic in there. So even the price right now is decreased because the many provider and then the demand is very high recently. Even before pandemic, maybe you in your home, maybe we subscribe around 500,000 and then decrease to 400 right now. I talked to several big provider. So the price is, I think, quite affordable, under 300 right now, mostly in all providers. So I think right now, if we talk about digital transformation, Indonesia, especially in Java or Bali, because I think 60% of internet user in Jawa, Bali Island, in others, the mine is in other island. So I think quite affordable on maybe in east of Indonesia, still difficult infrastructure, but quite affordable. So everyone, I think, can subscribe the internet right now very easily to support the digital transformation. But now our challenge is how to we focusing on this 20-something% can connect to the internet, especially in the east of Indonesia. The infrastructure is still difficult. Even the sea, if you know, the sea cable is very quite limited. So that's our challenge: how to boost the less 20% of the population can connect to internet. Yeah, maybe the like that.
Thank you, Mas Arif. That's very intriguing, the connectivity to the areas that do not have sufficient infrastructure, right? So how we can educate and provide more access. Now, speaking about access, Mbak I move to you. We all know that, during the pandemic, health become one of the crucial thing, and people need to have health service as soon as possible. Now, according to you, how has the health tech contributed to this situation toward the marginalized community, especially because Mas Arif mentioned that there's still 20% of those that is not tapped. So share me more of your thought, Mas.
Sure, thank you, Mawidia. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us here. Like you and me and everybody else in this room, I think the COVID pandemic really hit us hard, right? I think it was the very first time for many to realize how precious health is, right? And I think for HelloDoc, it really became a moment for us to really be there and be present for our users and our patients, right? Our philosophy as a company is to solve for patients' problems, right? So where they have pain points, especially with regards to health, we help to solve for it. And the COVID-19 pandemic became this moment of truth for us, right? And I think when we think about how fast things evolved and how fast the government, the health ministry, the ICT ministry, as well as players like HelloDoc, we were able to collaborate together and address that in a matter of days. It was just amazing to see. Right? I think in a matter of days, HelloDoc became one of the first companies to actually pioneer drive-through vaccinations, drive-through PCR serology tests, right? And then make that available on the ground in 100 different points across 34 provinces, and then make that available on our platform. That ability to collaborate and work, on the ground really fast, and touch all of these different patients and users across Indonesia and help them in this time of need, I think is something that we've all been able to do together during this pandemic. And what is amazing to see is how much this has really revolutionized not just the healthcare sector, but also Indonesian users and patients, right? I think who in this room thought about telemedicine as an option before the pandemic, right? Even me, and I'm a very tech-savvy user, I used to work for Google, so very, very tech-savvy. But then the moment pandemic hit, we were forced to change our habits, right? And I'm not just talking about users in Jakarta or Bandung or Surabaya. We're seeing this happen everywhere, right? And the access that users all over Indonesia, all over our provinces now have to amazing doctors, right? In, whether it's general GPs or specialist doctors. If you're a user in, say, Aceh or Sulawesi, Makassar, where there may not be that many doctors, you now have access to them. You can, get a diagnosis from them all through the touch of your fingers, right? I think that's what we focused on doing during the pandemic, and what we are continuing to focus on doing in uncovering what these pain points are and how health tech can solve.
That's very good to know, and I think you highlight a very strong point, right? Nobody would guess, right, before pandemic, whether people actually would use telemedicine, right? And this is a very breakthrough situation for us as a tech industry. Now, Mas Teddy, I would go to you. You have the mic there. Yeah, right. Okay, thank you, Mas. So, Mas Teddy, on the e-commerce platform, you heard about infrastructure and then the breakthrough, telemedicine industry and so on and so forth. How do you think that the emergence of online marketplace contribute to the robust digital economy in Indonesia? Whether this has any implication to our social interaction, Mas? Over to you.
Yeah, I think the social interaction is quite apparent on the second stage. Now, let me explain that in a bit, right? But I think when we first started, Indonesia has always been said as the lucky country because we are typically a cycle behind a developed market, the China, the US. And I remember many years ago, everybody, like all the investors around the world, kept saying, well, just copy. Just see what happened in China and just copy. Guess what? For the first 7-8 years, everybody do that, including us. We just copy it out of Alibaba, Taobao, and everything else. Now the problem becomes, so you suddenly have a country that have 5, 6, 7 companies doing exactly the same thing. Now, if you ever wonder why the e-commerce space is so competitive and everybody is burning money, it's because there's no differentiation. While it's good to help the first layer of SME seller to go online, it does actually create an unsustainable to some extent until recently in terms of development. Right? Now, I think we're moved into the second stage where, particularly given the global condition, people are more rational, you need to be sustainable. And for example, in our side, what we have done is to realize that connectivity cannot be done purely just from tech alone. Now, the challenge of Indonesian business has always been, how can you create connectivity through the 17,000 island, 270 million population? We were lucky a few years ago to realize that Indonesia actually has an infrastructure for it, which is the traditional convenience store, warung, right? And that's where we started off building out our network to now about 15 million mom and pop kiosks connected. Now, that actually goes into the next stage because it's not about just the end customer. It's about intermediating until you reach into the end customer. How can you help the mom and pop kiosks do better in their business? How can they source better, more SKU? How can they compete with modern retailer, right? And more recently, I think even on the pure technology side, we are starting to see, and it's funny you say the social interaction, right? Because I think if you really look throughout even the pandemic, the amount of e-commerce transaction done through WhatsApp, it's probably bigger than the formal market. Now, it means that Indonesian, as rightly so put, that majority of Indonesian has smartphone. A lot of the transaction actually took place on the social interaction type, digital social interaction, right? So, to compensate for that or to address for that, in the last 24 months, for example, we have rolled out a SaaS, software as a service, conversational commerce. So, not to the extent of Shopify, but you got the gist, right? And I was surprised that I just looked at the data last month. Within a year of existence, we now have 150,000 storefront connected. Now, I guess my message here is more, yes, we have learned from what happened in other country, but Indonesia is a very unique country. I think it's also very important to learn the good from the other country, but to implement it on a structure that actually works and suitable for Indonesia. Because what works in China might not work in Indonesia, what works in US might not work in Indonesia. We all Indonesian, we have a very intimate knowledge of our country, and I think it's very, very important to dare to be a bit more contrarian and implement something suitable.
That's, before I move to Mas Arif, that's very, very important. Indonesia is unique. We can't just copy because, it doesn't fit here right away, right? Now, you see challenges, Mas, based on your observation. I mean, what are the significant challenges here?
So when we first started on the Mitra, which is the mom and pop kiosk, there was a lot of challenge because our initial idea was just to use them as e-wallet agent. And the first question was, what is e-wallet? So we spent the first 2 years literally educating, and you have to do it boots on the ground, go out there, educate, tell them what technology is, how to use it for business rather than for chatting only. That was very costly. The first 2 years was very, very costly for us. Now, subsequently then, it becomes a lot lower cost because if your focus is how to help this MSME make more money, then you don't have to push. You become organic. People come sign up because they see their neighbor make 2-3 times more revenue, they see their cousin become richer, and they ask. Indonesia is a very community-based.
Right.
So they're starting to go, how did you do that? Oh, I do this. And then that spread word of mouth makes it economically sustainable, right? But the other challenge, which I think now we are handling, we're in the process of developing, is not the digital penetration, it's the financial penetration.
I see.
Most Indonesian doesn't have credit card. Most Indonesian doesn't have e-wallet. Most Indonesian get the income in cash. How are you going to pay on digital realm, right? This is where I think it's very, very crucial to see the development of digital financial inclusion. And this is where I think that having this millions and millions of mom and pop kiosks, if we can turn them to be a financial inclusion agent, I think they'll be very, very powerful for our country.
Thank you for that. So you mentioned a few things that very, very striking for me. Community and education as, two of the keys that are important to boost the digital transformation. Now, we're talking about digital adaptation here, right? Now, Mas Arif, I will look at you for the answer. So as digital adoption has been at its fastest pace, it is now becoming clear that actually providing an internet connection is not enough. That's the key. We have the infrastructure, we have the internet connection, but it's not enough. How can the tech community strengthen accountability for this? What do you think, Mas?
Okay, that's same with our. I think this we say it's collaboration, yeah. I think between the infrastructure provider and the tech company, because maybe yesterday I come also the fintech summit in here. So they said, yeah, of course. So now they think about how they can reach all the people in the village, blah blah blah. That's the problem right now. Maybe in the big city or the kota kabupaten, still okay right now. But how we can penetrate, how the tech company can collaborate with the maybe local internet provider to more reach to penetrate to the village or the remote area, something like that. So I think that's our challenge, yeah, right now, Mbak Widya. So
Mas, if this is just thinking out loud, right? So if you have to choose which one that should be in place first, is it the education of the internet user or the access of the internet?
Okay. So based on our survey, actually, first thing first, yeah. They will like social media and the game. So if you know the maybe Palaparing, maybe yes. You already know Palaparing. So I've been there when before Mr. Pak Rudiantara launching with Pak Presiden. So we do a little survey to the place that connect to already to Palaparing. So yeah, first thing first, when they can connect to the internet, yeah, okay lah, YouTube lah ya, or another social media, or maybe game, not become when the internet come, login or make account to Bukalapak gitu, yeah, and then start selling their local product. It's actually not like that. the real one is not like that. So first, so I mean. So the point is the education is very important. How can make the internet more productive, yeah, actually, not for only just for fun, see. So the penetration and the education, I think, must be in the parallel, yeah, cannot separate, yeah.
Separate. Yeah. So that's true. Now, moving to Mbak Vero, we talk about internet adoption, and do you see the issue as well in health tech? And are there any ways to overcome this issue, according to your opinion, and the experience of HaloDoc?
Nope. I lost the word. Before it happens, predictive. Pak Budi talked about this yesterday as well at B20, right? I think as a country we have to move from just being reactive to these diseases to preventing with like vitamins and wellness and fitness and then after that predicting, right, through things like diagnostics. But again, it's a journey, right? So access first, right? Digital literacy second, and then together, how do we educate the whole country on health literacy as well?
Now, before I move back to Mas Dedi, because I have lots of questions here. Now, I'd like to see your thinking about the new normal. Now, yes, we use a lot of health tech, telemedicine. I use that all the time. Now, with this, the campaign of going back to new normal and living with all that we have now, how do you oversee the situation in business perspective and also in the digital society perspective?
Yeah. So I think what's great, and I think what people often ask us is, okay, pandemic's almost over, although it's not really. And so how's your business doing, right? Is it going down? It's actually not. A lot of the behavior is sticking, and we have surveys and research that shows that 76% of users are sticking with telemedicine as a part of their healthcare journey, right? So I think that's one thing. But we also acknowledge that for certain things, I think healthcare offline will continue to be an important part of the regimen. And so how do we evolve our business to make room for these kinds of things with like setting appointments for doctors at the hospitals, or even more recently, home care. So if you want to check your blood for a routine check, the phlebotomist comes and they take their blood, right? So it's at the comfort of their home. But at the same time, I think what is also staying is what I mentioned, this realization and the awareness of how important health is, right? And how technology can be a solution, again, not just for curative, but also preventive and then eventually predictive.
So still there. Telemedicine
Still there.
helps society for sure, working with all of the stakeholder, government, association, and other business player. Now, Mas Teddy, speaking about the new normal, right? How do you oversee this, the change from pandemic, 80% of the time looking at apps, purchase everything on the apps, UMKM still continue moving forward with their businesses because the business that you're leading, and now going back to new normal. Now, you mentioned very important point, the digital literacy on finance. But let that alone, what is your thinking moving forward? How do you oversee this new normal and, in business perspective as well as collaboration with stakeholder? Over to you.
Yeah, so I think first is a lot of the behavior shape throughout the pandemic, it becomes very sticky. So for example, in our case, as a lot of the people went to the community store or warung and realized that they used to be able only to buy mineral water, instant noodle. Now you can pay tax, you can pay electricity token, you can remittance, you can do a whole bunch of things as a one-stop solution. I think that behavior is sticky, right? And I think, even, and then I'm looking at this mostly from the MSME kind of perspective, with a number of participation, and we have here Gudang Ada, Gotoko, right? I think that has widely cemented, I guess, the intermediary connectivity, right, to address some of that issue. Like for example, right now I was doing the quick count on the number of electricity token that was topped up through our platform, unique electricity token from day one, and I was surprised to find that we practically has touched 40% of Indonesian population. Right, so that's like 40% of a unique electricity token has topped up through us one time, until today. Now, I think that infrastructure is there. I think going ahead, though, this is where it gets interesting, right? I think a lot of and I hope, from Gudang Ada, Gotoko would do the same, where I think we're trying to see how we can turn something that has happened globally not to happen in Indonesia, because globally, you see a lot of modern convenience store take over the market share of traditional convenience store. It's not a wave you can turn, but can we upgrade, can we empower this traditional convenience store so that their capability is now matching the modern retailer, and therefore, by default, they become modern retailer and give them the fighting chance. But to do that, I think it's not going to be an easy task. I think everybody has been working on that. And my sense is, going ahead, we're probably going to see more contrarian type of collaboration. So we have spoke a lot about collaboration, but somehow a lot of collaboration is only within the tech sector. Right. I think now we are starting to see offline conventional player collaborate with a tech company, and I think that's very important because they have their own know-how. And like you're from Traveloka, right? I mean, Traveloka was born out of a contrarian because you used to book travel through travel agent, and you kind of challenge that conventional wisdom and turn that on an apps. And even today, whenever you want to travel, you'll open up your Traveloka apps, right? Now, I just think that in the past half a decade or past 3 to 4 years, there's not enough contrarian ideas, or people are following the flow too much. I think a lot of the tech company today are born because of contrarian, and we need to kind of keep that mindset, right? Like things like, I don't know, Farah, if you realize, fintech would rely heavily upon your data. Why? Because if I want to lend, as a fintech, if I want to lend someone money, yes, I need to know their income, but I need to know if they're healthy, right? That's true. So, I mean, if they're not healthy, then they may not be able to repay back. So a lot of this idea may sound very out there and outside the box, but I think this is where we are heading in the next innovation. Things that you can't just copy, seeing what happened in developed market. Things that are probably born out of the emerging market kind of innovation.
That's wonderful. By the way, we have fintech member as well under this ITF, and I think one of you, Dana team, is also here. Hi, Dana team. but that's very crucial, Mas. Now, hang on there, Mas. So I think I'm very cautious with time, but because this is G20 and now we have ITF. Now, what is your advice and some thoughts on how ITF can contribute more and then engage more private sector to achieve that goal, Mas? A final word.
Yeah, I think communication is key. Daring to share is key. And I think the last bit is for all industry players, have respect to the others. By means is that the reason why a lot of the tech company are very secretive, and I'm sure, compared to a lot of the offline people, they're like, you guys are so secretive, right? Because, people are scared that the idea are being copied. But I always said, if you have a great idea, it has to be sustainable. If your innovation is sustainable, i.e. you have your own strength and barrier of entry, then others would not be able to compete or enter into your area easily. Now, that would give you more comfort or confidence in sharing your idea, as contrarian as it may be, because somebody may be sitting here and goes, hey, I can help you on that, right? So I think that more openness across not just the tech company, but also a lot of the offline company. I think now we are entering the stage where online and offline is no longer the old and the new economy. It just has to go hand in hand. It's not online to offline or offline to online. It's online and offline has to work together.
That's great. Very powerful. Big applause for Mas Teddy here. Very important. Now, because Mas Teddy mentioned about the collaboration between tech company, online, offline. So before I move to Mas Tarif, I hand it over to you, Mbak Vero. What is your final thoughts, final advice for ITF? Because this is the moment where ITF actually now will work hand in hand together, not only to support G20 now, but moving forward, for the future. What is your thought?
Yeah, I think just to echo what Pak Teddy said, we are a country that really values gotong royong, collaboration, and I think that that's what makes this country strong. And I think the best outcomes, as we've seen in the pandemic, is when everybody works together and collaborates, whether it's us as tech platforms, whether it's the government, the ministries, across ministries, as well as our offline partners. We have our partners here from hospitals, from pharmacies, doctors, associations. I think the more that we share in terms of our knowledge and our challenges, the more we'll find areas where we can help each other. And I think that's where the real magic and the power will come from, is that collaboration and gotong royong.
That's great. Collaboration with compassion and gotong royong. Applause to Mbak Vero here. And Mas Harif, your final word, because this is two tech leaders talking about collaboration, openness, right? Community. What do you think?
Actually, Mbak Vero already steal my closing remarks for gotong royong. But actually, because ABJI is the focus infrastructure, so maybe a little bit story. Back in that day, we only collect collaboration with Kominfo only back in that day. But since the pandemic, I think the internet is like part of the digital transformation of the Indonesia. So we collaborate to many Kementerian lembaga, I think, and even the local government. So I mean, so this so because the president have the vision to 2045, how Indonesia can be the real, I think, be the real digital country, something like that. So I think, the important thing, we must collaboration, and then how the infrastructure, now the real important is in the internet, of course, so everyone can, bekerja over the internet. So I think the ITF still can be continue after this, not end of this G20 event, Mbak Widya, ya. So next year we still have many things we can collaboration. So of course the important thing, I think we underline, we can do the more education, I think, to the people. Right. So hopefully not only the internet generation, but we have the real digital talent, for Indonesia.
Thank you, Mas Arif. Round of applause for Mas Arif as well. So the highlight, I think, if I may summarize, the homework is still a lot, right? The homework is still a lot. Yes, we made progress It's a big leap toward the digital transformation, but it's not enough. Collaboration, we always heard that, but hopefully with ITF, then the collaboration will be real there, right? I mean, if we can put all of the C-level from marketplace together, then definitely collaboration will be there, right? But one thing for sure, ladies and gentlemen, G20 in Indonesia is probably setiap 20 tahun aja, right? Every 20 years, right? So, but I do hope in 20 years from now, I would see all of you here, right? So we're not retired just yet, yeah? So ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We still have great expert panel today. But to end this first panel, I would like to invite you to give a very big round of applause for all of our wonderful speakers here. And I know some of you need to fly to catch up the flight to Jakarta. Safe flight, and thank you so much. And I'll see you around. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the first expert panel session this morning. Thank you for all of the honorable speakers and moderator for such an enlightening discussion about digital infrastructure and society. Ladies and gentlemen, like we all heard before, that collaboration with compassion is the key. With collaboration, we can work together and help together and reach the digital infrastructure and society development together. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move to our second expert panel session of the day, please allow us to invite you for a coffee break. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite you to go to the foyer area of this ballroom, and we will have coffee break for 10 minutes. After that, we would like to invite you again to join us for the second expert panel session this morning. Kepada seluruh hadirin, berikutnya kami mengundang untuk dapat menikmati coffee break selama 10 menit yang berada di foyer area dari ballroom di Anvaya Beach Resort Bali, dan kami undang untuk dapat kembali hadir lagi di ballroom ini 10 menit lagi untuk mengikuti panel sesi yang kedua. Kami persilakan, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the coffee break. Thank you. Papaya Beach Resort Bali. How was your coffee break? Is it good? You have a little break time and ready to focus on the second panel session of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, our topic for the second panel session this lovely afternoon is about digital economy. On this panel, together we will discuss about the landscape of Indonesia's digital economy and the synergy between technology companies. Also, we will discuss about how tech companies bring transformation and the economic and social impact generated by the presence of digital players in the Indonesia digital economy landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce to you our moderator for the second expert panel session. She is the head of PR Bureau at Bukalapak. Please welcome and give round of big applause for Miss Monica Chua.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all are very well today. So first, let me introduce myself. My name is Monica Chua. I'm the head of PR Bureau in Bukalapak, and it's an honor for me to moderate the second session today. And before we start the panel, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to inform you that our panel will be very interesting. Why? Because we have competitors who maybe in real life and in business do not like each other. We have Gudangada and also Gotoko joining our panel later on. Just kidding on the slide, by the way. And of course, we have Dr. Riza later on, the Vice President of Digital Business and Telecom, to really give us an insights and helicopter view of the digital transformation taking place in our country today. So I think without further ado, let's invite our panelists on the stage today. Please welcome Stephen Sang. He's the co-founder and also the CEO of Gudangada. Welcome, Stephen. And next, we have Dr. Riza Rukmana. He's the Vice President of Digital Business Strategy from Telkom Indonesia. And last but not least, we have Gurno Singh. He is the CEO of Gotoko. Very warm welcome to you as well, Gurno. Okay, so how are you, gentlemen? Good, great. Okay, shall we start the panel?
It's very exciting.
Okay, sure. Now, the first question, let's start from the macro condition. When we talk about the global economy, we talk about global economic slowdown, you know, the rising interest rates from the central government, the rising inflations, and the current hottest topic is actually on recession, whether it will hit us once again in 2023, or we are actually stronger than before. So my question is, how challenging do you think the 2023 economy will look like, and how hard will it impact our SMEs? Let's start with you, Dr. Riza.
Thank you, Monica. Well, actually, if we talk about the macroeconomy as overall, it affected by many factors. Yeah, one of those are the geopolitical situation, and yeah, we all know that now there are Russian and Ukrainian war. Yeah, so it drives to scarcity of several commodity, right? So the scarcity drive the price to be higher, and then so there is inflation, and then to balance the inflation, then the Fed increase the interest rate, right? So after the interest rate, then the people will hold their spending, right? Including the investor. So the investor will be very selective, yeah, to invest in their portfolio. So it's time for us, for every business player, to strengthen the fundamental, yeah, the business fundamental rather than the valuation. So MSME. Now we talk about MSME in Indonesia. It's account for 61%, right? So it will become it is our main part, a big chunk for us. Then how to strengthen MSME means that we strengthen our economy, right? And digitalization in here will help lubricating the MSME to be resilient to face the crisis. Yeah? So they will still make transaction everything by digitalization rather than the manual ways. Yeah. So that's my thought about this.
Okay, so resilience for our SMEs, that's a very good point, Dr. Riza. Next, let's move on to you, Kuno. Before this panel, you told me you have an economic degree from the London School of Economics, LSE. So we want to know your view on this. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Monica was stating that and putting pressure that I have to use my economics degree on a tech platform. But I think I'll just agree with what Dr. Riza said. First of all, I think we need to be a little responsible in speculating if the recession is coming, not coming. There are a lot of transient factors which are contributing to this doom and gloom. Just for a minute, if I can explain, the demand shock came with pandemic, and you have a supply chain shock with the war in Ukraine and rising inflationary prices. Now, if you ask any economist, they would prefer a supply chain problem rather than a demand problem. And Indonesia, the way it's growing and the current pace of growth we're seeing, I think as an emerging economy, it'll be very difficult for Indonesia to have too much impact, because at this stage of the company, you should have network effects in the ecosystem going in. But the question on how does it impact, I would say, SMEs and MSMEs and the economy as a whole, there's a very famous line in economics that every crisis is an opportunity. Whenever there's a recession, or in recessionary pressure, it hits differently. But one thing is consistent, that sometimes discretionary spending reduces, but your essential spending remains intact. So if you're an SME in the space of discretionary spending, be careful. But if you're an SME in the space of a warung, people will still want to buy instant noodles, still want to have susu, still have to have the RTM coffee mix. That's not going to change. And secondly, this gives an opportunity for us, people like Gudangada, people like Gotoko, to now focus on change. Change the mindset thing. If a crisis comes in and you start coming to a platform of choice, which we stand for, then you will be able to move to the light faster. And that's my perspective, that you can always have a positive and a negative spin on the same thing.
Okay, so you see the demand is actually still there, and we're quite strong to face the upcoming recession as they expected. Okay, now let's move on to you, Stephen, still the same questions. 60% of our GDP is contributed by our SMEs, so we really need to make sure that they're resilient enough, to face the global economic slowdown that is currently happening and probably will impact us harder next year. So what is your view on this, Stephen?
Okay, let me focus on our field, that's FMCG or CPG SME. So if you look at the industry, actually, this is, we are working on the Mibot Gotoko and Gudangada, working on the industry of the daily articles product, which is, even in crisis or whatever, people will still consuming, but of course there will be a shifting from a higher price product to the cheaper price product, which is using technology, Gudang Ada and others, actually will help the SME to reduce the cost on the operating. Because I think the largest challenge on the CPG or FMCG product beyond is on the logistic costs, which is their bulky product, very price sensitive or something like that. So using technology to enhance and also reduce the cost is one of the key things. And from the company perspective, we all know that actually crisis is also the time to build a quality company. So we see this crisis also a tailwind for Gudang Ada to focus, of course, on the build out the right product solution that really can help the SME to grow this business, to doing the business in a better way on selling, both on searching and selling the product. and also carrying the product with on the whole supply chain with a more efficient cost. So that's my opinion. And if you look at the our last growth is the last quarter is 5.7%. So we still believe that Indonesia economy next year should be still very good. Thank
Okay,
you.
still very optimistic. That's very interesting, Stephen. Now moving on to disruption, gentlemen. We know that disruption is moving so fast, and people argue that today, right now, is the time to transform, right? But there are still around 20% of the population in Indonesia do not have access to internet, like what just Mas Arif Angga just updated, right? So we want to know, how do we tackle this? Does it mean that we have to disrupt and challenge this traditional business existence in the market to really fully transform? Let's start with you, Kuno.
Okay. In a short answer, absolutely not. I think what we should be very clear that technology companies should create value rather than destruct value. And I'm also a very clear believer, and that's what GoToGo stands for, that you need to enable rather than disrupt. Now, as the previous panel was talking about, this is not the first time when people say the small and micro segment is going to collapse. There was a period where modern trade took over in different countries. There were cash and carries. The warung owners know their business. The SMEs know their business. And what we should stream for is for a higher purpose, which is how can we create capabilities for them to unleash and compete. Enabling models do not have an expiry date. Disruptive models where you are creating solutions which are taking a demand from one place and bring it to your channel will have an expiry date and will not be sustainable. And that's what I think in GoToGo we stand for, that we want to be a platform which is improving the lives of underserved warungs by growing their business. And we can only do that with collaboration, with compassion, with everybody. It's not us trying to take one demand sector, as Stephen was saying, and take it to another channel. I fundamentally believe technology should stand for good. Let's aim for a higher purpose. You can build a business model which is economically viable and also create social impact for the lowest segment.
Okay, so we don't challenge their existence. That's the point there. Okay. Regarding this, Dr. Riza, I would also like to ask for your point of view, because actually before I think this kind of companies enter the market, for example, Kudang Ada, GoToGo, Mitra Bukalapak, and other auto business, this kind of warungs and mom and pop and store kiosks, people tend to leave them, because with the emergence of modern retailers, of course, with a cheaper price, various of SKUs and so. So how do we tackle this issue? How do we come and ask everyone to join us on board, even with the difficulties of the internet penetration that we still have around 20% left? To you, Dr. Riza.
Yeah, I agree with Gunnar. Yeah, the digitalization actually will, rather than disrupting, it will enhance the online offline traditional business. So it has three benefits. Yeah, first is to simplify the transaction. Before if we traditional business without digitalization will need to transaction physically. Yeah, but with digitalization, then they can simplify the transaction, and then also they can digitalization can bypass the middleman, and then it will give the margin, better margin, and then also third thing is to improve the coverage of the market. So that will give better impact for the traditional business.
Yeah. I do agree. I think the word impact here, we use it very often in our line of business. For your information as well, ladies and gentlemen, as in Bukalapak, we also have Mitra Bukalapak. So basically, it's not just the two of you who are competitors here. there's three of us, right? So, but it's okay. We're all friends. I mean, you know, we all have come and sit here together to really talk and discuss on how, you know, we can foster the digital transformation here in Indonesia. I would like also to ask you the same question, Stephen. We would say the word disrupt, you know, from taking the business from offline to online every single day in Gudang Ada. So how do you see this process, and how can we onboard as many SMEs players as we can?
Yes. Me also, I think at Gudang Ada, we believe that technology should bring a positive impact to the society. So that's why when we're talking about the disruption, I think for Indonesia SME, the local expertise and local wisdom is very important. You have to understand how the supply chain works, from the manufacturer to the retailers and then to the consumer. So at Gudang Ada, we know that this industry, especially on the traditional trade, is dominated by the wholesalers, which is they already in the business for over generation. That's why at Gudang Ada, we come with the third-party model. We work closely with the wholesaler, help them transform their business from offline to online using technology, which is on this way, we can help them to do the business in a faster, cheaper, smarter, bigger way. So it makes everyone more easier to searching the product, also selling the product through technology. And if we see the transformation on the tech adoption, there is no way that we can avoid on technology side. So technology is something we should adopt. And that's why Gudang Ada tap into the industry, actually helping the whole stakeholder of the supply chain to adopt technology and at the same time grow their business in a more efficient, more effective way. So that's my point of view on this. And second, of course, education is a must-doing thing in this industry. Because if you look at the industry on this thing, it's maybe we are maybe 7 years ago compared with the B2C. So B2B is a very early stage. That's why to build the literacy on the technology and also on the tech adoption is very important to do education. So that's why at Gudang Ada, starting from the first day, we have a lot of BD team to bridging and do the education, make sure that the user, the SME really understand the benefit of the technology, the platform, and then how they can adopt it and also grow their business through the technology.
But gentlemen, I think when we talk about digital transformation, we cannot forget the word financing. Because, you know, these SMEs, they need finance, someone to finance them to really open the business, to really scale up their business. But financing remains as one of the key challenges when we talk about SMEs. Why? Because, of course, they pose a higher risk for financial institutions in terms of the NPL and so on. So we want to know, as you know, an industry task force, how can we tackle this? Let's start with you, Kudo.
I think following on from the spirit of Part Teddy, I actually have a very contrary opinion. I don't believe, especially in the segment we participate in, that there is a higher risk in financing and credit. And here is the fact. The most efficient credit distribution system in the world is an offline credit provided by the distributor of a brand with an NPA less than 0.2%. Now, let me explain that, how that works, and why is it very difficult for a financial institution to replicate that. A distributor today has these relationships for 10, 15 years, which means your transaction volume is always going to be the same. There is no uncertainty or volatility. And then you have a touch point with a field force and a touch point of a delivery guy. Now, any financial institution which operates at a NIM between 2% of FTP to transfer will not be able to afford that. So the problem statement is not risk. The problem statement is data. And I can tell you as an ex-banker, today the rate of unsecured lending is 15%. That is why it causes NPA, not because the inherent data is flawed. So what we need to do as a task force, and what I believe we should all be doing, is bringing them into the light. Now let's say Gotoko's example. I would give 6 months of transaction data and 28 behavioral attributes to any fintech, and I can promise you that data of 15% will drop to 0.2% from a credit perspective. What we should try to do is to create that collaboration with Compassion View where we don't write it off as a risk, but what can we do to create that data infrastructure, as Bahira was saying in the beginning, that what we have to do is to bring it all together in one place, use it together, not look at each other as competitors, but actually create a value which works for all of us and bring that interest rate down, because that's the biggest loss in the value chain, not the underlying transaction.
Okay, so you see the issue is actually relies on the data. Okay, very interesting. Let's move on to you, Dr. Riza, regarding this financing for our SMEs, which still right now still pose as a main challenge for them to really grow and to really scale up their business. So what is your view on this, Dr. Riza?
Well, from financing side, the data that collected by the companies can be utilized for using it for credit scoring. So I think technology in here can be utilized to improve the financing business. The help by financial institution to give credit scoring, and then also it can connect between financial institution and the business. I think.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Riza. And next, moving on to you, Stephen, still regarding the same questions. I'm sure Gudang Ada deals a lot with SMEs. And we also want to know, apart from what you think about the financing challenges, is there any maybe assistance provided in terms of the funding, or maybe you work with cross-sector to really give them and to really help them in terms of this? Stephen, please.
Yeah, I think to add on Gunnar, and also there's very important key point here at not only the credit scoring, but we also need to know what they use the capital we finance them. We should separate it from when we go to the SMA. I think nobody can track it. They use it for business, or they use it for the personal consumption or whatever. So it's very important when we go to this SME, we have to make sure that the financing should go through to grow the business. That's why how to do a better financing for this SMA, you have to integrate it with the marketplace or the platform that for the searching of the product and also the selling. So when you have this kind of data integrated with the marketplace, with the selling, with the POS, SAS, then you can make sure also monitor and tracking that this capital go to this SME actually to grow the business on the right way or not. So data is very important. Integrated from the marketplace for the searching, and then go to the POS, SAS, and then tracking for the selling side. So this is how actually we can minimize the risk on the financing for the SMA. Thank you.
Okay, so you mentioned about data as well, and I'd like to ask this question as well to Dr. Riza. I think we all can argue here, gentlemen, that in order for the business to really transform, data should be at the heart of the business. Data analysis, big data, AI have all become the buzzwords, but I think only a few people really grasp the concept. So what is the importance of data to really untap this market?
Okay. Data for us, data collection, definitely data will be can be utilized in two sides. The first side is to use internally for us in telecommunication business. We can create more efficient services by knowing more on the behaviors, on the behavior of our customers, and then we can create something like maybe in the planning area, in the selling area, and where to develop and so on. So we can have a better service, a better service, a better deployment, and also to the market, To the market, we can know the behavior of the customer. Then we can formulate, We can formulate the better, the best service for each of our customer, through its characteristics, So the data collection is very important for us. But yeah, however, from now, actually until now, yeah, it is very quite challenging, yeah, to collect. Especially between different entities. Even for us, yeah, in Telkom and Telkomsel, it's different entity cannot share the data, yeah. So it's quite challenging for us to implement, yeah. It's easier to say, but yeah, to implement it's quite challenging.
Okay, yeah, because data is, definitely quite sensitive to talk about. But I want to ask you once again, we just heard just now that there are still around 20% of our population do not have access to internet. So we're actually talking, ladies and gentlemen, about people who do not have access to social media like we do, so they cannot update where they are, what they are doing, what they are eating, like us easily. And these are the people who perhaps do not have access to internet banking or banking even in general, right? So I want to ask Telkom about this, Dr. Riza. What can Telkom do as, for example, the infrastructure provider to really tackle this and to really increase the penetration?
Okay, according to Pak Arif's survey, yeah, there are three things. There are three things that makes internet adoption. First is the coverage, yeah, the coverage, and then the second thing is the affordability of the service. And then the third thing is the device. So Telkom, now through Telkom and Telkomsel, we have covered 99% of population. So in terms of coverage, we already developed the network, so the people can use the internet actually, and then the platform on top of it. Also, we have developed cloud, cybersecurity, and so on, yeah, data center and so on. We have already developed. And then the second thing is the service, yeah. We already formulate the cheap, the affordable services. From Telkom, the cheapest is around 200K. 200K in a month, yeah, for internet access from IndiHome. And but from Telkomsel, it's even cheaper, yeah, only 15K rupiah to get internet access. So we already have those two efforts, yeah, to make the rest of the people to expose to the internet. But the device maybe it's not. Yeah, we can encourage by bundling the service and the device, yeah, something like that.
Okay, so we're really trying to get the expense down for people to access internet, yeah, Dr. Riza? Okay, now moving on to Gudang Ada and also Go Toko. Let's talk about our customers, the SMEs, who are quite known for being very promo sensitive. Right? So, they will choose the platform with more promos, more cashbacks, more helps in general, right? So I want to ask you, what is the cost of really maintaining this loyalty? And maybe there's other value proposition that your company adds or maybe offer? Let's start with you, Stephen.
Yeah, as you know that Gudang run a third-party model. So we really bring the value to our customer. We empower the whole supply chain. So our strategy actually mostly to help them starting to build their online networks, do their business online, and then our focus mostly we build out the ecosystem to increase the stickiness, also the loyalty of our customer. That's why Gudang Ada not only provide the platform, marketplace platform for the transaction, we also focus to build out the logistic services. Which can provide them the logistic services at a very affordable cost. And also we build out the POS SAS to help them to run their business, their store on the right way. They have the visibility on the inventory. They have the visibility on the cash flow and other things. And lastly, we also help them, support them on the financial services. We're working with the third party to make sure that the right customer, they really grow the business, they can get the cheap capital to grow the business. So this is how we build out the whole ecosystem to increase the stickiness, at the same time maintain royalties. We are not focusing on burning cash to do some program or something like that. So that's our strategy.
Okay, very interesting, but obviously I cannot comment on that. So let's move on to you, Gurno, talking about the same thing. How do you maintain the loyalty and, of course, the kind of value proposition that GoTogo offers to the SMEs?
Well, I completely agree with Past Stephen. And I agree with you that in this segment, as Dr. Riza also talked about, they are value seekers. They're not price seekers. I think that's a very big differentiation. There are value seekers versus price seekers. And I think just to add on, I'll give a different perspective. When we started GoTogo, we were very clear that today in Indonesia, there are about 6 million warungs, which we can call as between warung makan and warung and FMCG. About 3 million of them are about 80% of the Pareto of retail. But if you go and ask any brand, between only 500 to 600,000 is well covered. The 2.4 million is underserved. And what PA is trying to do is to link the wholesalers which are already there today. We are taking an even further approach by saying that we want to focus on the smallest segment because they don't get simple, basic, relevant assortment on their platform. They don't get delivery to their doorstep. They have to shut their shop 3 times a day, do petrol, have an impact on the climate. So those hidden things, first step is to educate. And that's why we have followed a very different strategy and saying we'll go to the smallest underserved, nurture them, bring them onto platform and make it platform of choice. Then we took one step further. Now your question, okay, that's all great, but how do you do it in execution? I think that's the last question you asked about data. Today, I believe the data today in this world is a data overload. So you need to focus on the sound and ignore the noise. And what is the question you're asking? Every warung owner is different, regardless of location. So we came up with a strategy that we have to break Indonesia into many, many parts, and we called it winning in many Indonesias. A unit economics ecosystem for value in Bali is very different from Samarang. And we want to go deep in those clusters and give those values to underserved who are starved of it. Today, if you're able to convince him, listen, you don't have to go anywhere. You get the prices from the brands, you get loyalty from the brands, and you do your basic business. That's the first step. You can add the value proposition, you can add loyalty, you can add all of it to get them on the journey for capability. But the first step is give them basic customer service. And they will remember you for that. And our score of NPS plus 38 and the testimonials we're getting from each and every customer we have in the last 1 year is proving that if you have the ability or through technology to be somebody's best friend, go for it and bring everyone together.
Great, interesting. Let's give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Dr. Riza, I'm not going to ask you from the industry point of view, but maybe from a helicopter view regarding our SMEs. And we're not only talking about O2O business, we're talking about marketplace, we're talking about fintech, People tend to find those with more, promotions, cashbacks, the Indonesians love it. Right? We do love free stuffs and cashbacks and discounts, right? So how do you see this trend, and how do you think for a digital platform, what can they do to really maintain the loyalty from their customers?
Yeah, digitalization. Actually, we have two sides. Yeah, we can use it to internal, and then also to external. To internal, we can increase our effectiveness, and then so the impact will be directly we can get there. But the digitalization to the market, it will, it's kind of no regret move for us. But because we have already stagnant, now the revenue is quite difficult for us. So we have to go into new market now. But how to make sure that we get the most from the market is to prioritize, to select the most opportunity that we can get, combined with our unfair advantage. So that is the way for us, to get the digitalization is yes, it is to invest is a must, for us.
Yeah, because people argue that the tech companies that invest the most, they are generally more profitable maybe in the future, and those who don't, then they might face consequences. That's another good point, but I think we'll discuss it sometimes later. Gentlemen, I was just informed that we have only around 5 minutes left, so maybe for the closing, we'll require a closing statement from each panelist. Let's start with you, Gunnar.
I think what I would say from a GoToco perspective that the future is very bright, and as economists say that in the long run all of us are dead. So we should focus on the next 2 years. What I've seen in this room and what I've seen over the last great work done by task force, we are at a cusp of an inflection point. I think one of the conversations we were having, there are so many different players, like what Eddie was saying. How do you differentiate? And I was actually telling past Stephen, this 2.5 million underserved we talk about is a $75 billion market. Today, even if you take all of us together, it's not even touching billions of dollars. So for me, it's about enlarging the pizza or a martabak rather than having a zero-sum game. And that's what GoToco stands for, to be that platform of choice. We want to partner with every single stakeholder if possible, including Buklabak and Gudaganda if possible, because our vision is to make an impact on the ground. And the last point I will say, there is no, I would say, upper limit on what can be achieved for these warungs. They've been here before. A lot of times industries have said they're going to die, modern trade is going to come. They know their business. It's all about us coming together, creating an economy, creating task forces, bringing them to the light, and all of us do our jobs. I'm pretty sure the future is very, very bright, even in the short term, medium term, and long term. Terima kasih, and thank you for inviting us.
Thank you very much, Gurno. And we'll arrange that dinner for you, no worries. We'll arrange the dinner for us to have a more chit-chat regarding the digital transformation. Thank you very much. Okay, next to you, Dr. Riza, please.
Well, I think digital transformation is more to help, more to add value, to traditional business. So it is, rather than disruption, then we can say that it is to give more value to the traditional business. So we need to collaborate, from all the infrastructure provider and then platform provider and services to collaborate together to bring the more value, so it can bring it can strengthen our economy. Especially the MSME will play a big part, of Indonesia is 61%. So it can strengthen our economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Riza. Next to you, Stephen.
Yeah, at Gudaganda, our mission is to empower the whole FMCG supply chain. So that's why we see that collaboration, multi-stakeholders, and also strong support by the government should be the key, so we can bring the positive impact to the society, especially to these general threats. So as Teddy mentioned, how we can make them being more modern management, with the capability, visibility on the how they can manage their store better. Because we just get a very deep data from the 3-month field research on the CPG, B2B. We found out that the data show that only 5% today, the B2B, go through the technology B&B. And there is another 25% of the pie on the big city, tier 1 and tier 2 city, with the good internet penetration and readiness of the user. They are ready for the technology. And also there is one very promising and also good data that showing around 48 to 62% of the traders is ready to adopt the technology. So how we can work together to do the education and build the literacy for them to starting adopt technology to grow their business. So that's how we work together, collaborate to bring the positive impact to the society. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Very insightful discussion. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists today. We have Gurno Singh, is the CEO of GoToco. We have Dr. Riza Rukmana, the Vice President of Digital Business Strategy at Telkom. And of course, we have you, Stephen Sang, the founder and CEO of Kudangada. Thank you very much once again, panelists. I'm Monica Chua. I'll hand it back over to the MC. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the second panel session for today. We hope the discussion able to give the audience new idea, a new perspective, and a new strategy about digital economy. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope with the synergy between technologies company, we can contribute a big and positive economy and social impact in the Indonesia digital economy landscape. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of big applause? Thank you for all speakers and congratulations for our moderator for successfully leading the discussion today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we have reached the third expert panel session for today. This is the last panel session of this event. And our third expert panel session will discuss the matters on digital government. Here we will together discuss about what would the ideal of digital government look like, digitalization on government, about the acceleration of digital transformation from pandemic, and how the digital government platform support the digital economy, and also the role of digital tech players in supporting e-government. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you our moderator for the third expert panel session. He is the head of corporate communication Gudang Ada. Please welcome Mr. Armin Gita.
Tes. Halo, selamat siang. Sekali lagi ya, halo, selamat siang. Terima kasih, karena biasanya the last session tuh agak berat ya, apalagi menjelang sesi makan siang. So, selamat datang di sesi panel yang ketiga. Kita akan mendiskusikan mengenai digital government di Indonesia. Kita akan mendengarkan paparan dari para panelis. Ada 4 di sini, jadi full team kali ini. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third session, the last one for today. We'll be discussing of digital government in Indonesia. We have full 4 spokesperson panelists with us today. And of course, I would like to invite them one by one to the stage. So, the first one would be the Vice President of Amazon Web Services, Worldwide Public Sector, Max Peterson. Please come up to the stage, sir. In his role, Peterson supports and empowers government, education, healthcare, aerospace, satellite, and non-profit organizations globally as they modernize their mission with the cloud. He's passionate about working with customers and partners to help make the world a better place and improve the lives of citizens, students, patients, and individuals. And for the second panel, I would like to invite the head of global education and head of women at Zoom, Christy Fliss. Christy joined Zoom in 2015 to build Zoom education vertical from the ground up. She led Zoom's successful growth in higher education early on, helped create the foundation for K-12, primary and secondary education, and continually identifies key area of developments. And the third panel from Indonesia, I believe you all know him, is the Chief Digital Transformation Office of the Ministry of Health, Bapak Setiaji. Silakan, Pak. Since last year, Bapak Setiaji has been in the position leading the digital transformation process in the Ministry of Health. He supports the acceleration of the digital transformation by forming a digital transformation office. And of course, last but not least, the second Balinese person to join me in this panel is Bapak Igusti Ngurah Udiana from Kominfo Bali. Silakan Pak naik ke panggung. So since 2020, early pandemic, Bapak Udiani has been in charge in the Kominfo Bali, managing digital services development and application system across the agency in the province of Bali. Selamat datang, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the stage. So, as we all know, the pandemic is a key accelerator for digital transformation for Indonesia, as well as for the rest of the world. People around the world now have shifted towards a digital lifestyle thanks to pandemic, requiring them to rely on application to order goods and services. And recently, according to the report of Google, Southeast Asia, is approaching $200 billion in 2022, 3 years earlier than expected before, partly due to the surge of adoption during the pandemic. And of course, these new consumer patterns are made possible by the availability of digital technologies such as cloud services. So, Max, would you mind sharing us a bit on how the Amazon Web Services story in supporting companies, startups, in providing a scalable and efficient services to the consumers nowadays?
Sure, that's a great question. Probably a lot of people don't know that it was nearly 20 years ago that Amazon's current CEO, Andy Jassy, wrote the paper for cloud computing. And the reason was because inside Amazon, it was getting too hard to be able to get all of the resources that you needed to get a hold of to keep growing a very fast-growing e-commerce business. And that's where AWS was born. And so it started off as an internal idea that Andy drove. And then in 2006, they launched the first set of public cloud services. And now just fast forward to 2022, AWS is available around the world, but it helps customers do the same things that was originally needed by Amazon. It's the ability to access computer, storage, and software resources in minutes. It's the ability to scale up and then scale down and pay only for what you use. It's the ability to drive innovation that much faster. And it's the reason why, when we had the opportunity to, we launched an AWS region right here in Indonesia just about a year ago. So governments, small businesses, large businesses, healthcare organizations, everybody can benefit from those basic principles of cloud computing.
Great. So since 1990s, right?
Well, let's see. It would have been probably 2004 was the internal piece, and then 2006 was when Amazon Web Services was publicly launched.
So is there any specific differences across the market that you've learned, like in a couple of decades, talking about collaboration with the government, especially informing digital government services toward the people?
That's an interesting question. I would tell you that some of our fastest growing customers in government actually act like startups. And if I can maybe share a little bit of the story from Bali province. Bali province was, and I won't steal your all of your thunder.
Thank you.
But like any other customer, they were suddenly faced with a requirement to quickly develop and deploy a lot of new applications. The first one was basically time and attendance. During the COVID pandemic, there wasn't a way to do that as efficiently as when everybody was working remotely. So they really quickly, they were scrappy, and they started up and they built this application, and they decided it was delivering value. And so then they built another and built another and another. And eventually it's used by 11,000 or so employees, around about 250 different.
20,000, right?
Oh, okay, my facts are old, and like I said, they're growing fast. But in essence, right, inside of about a year, they had a full suite of e-government services, and in fact, earned them the recognition of the #1 local e-government customer. So, I mean, it's a story just like startups.
Right, so that's interesting one, the time attendance story. I'm getting back there with Pak Ngurah later on. So thank you, Max. So I'm going to Christy. So now the pandemic has also impacted the way we communicate and coordinate with the others. In early days of pandemic, we were forced to adopt new way of meetings, like One of them is, of course, via Zoom, right? So I'd like to hear your perspective on this. Did Zoom actually predict before like this era will be happen in due time? And actually, can you share also a bit the background story on how Zoom managed to provide like a very scalable services in a very short time of span, yeah? Because at that time it was early 2020, I believe, and it's only take a couple of months for people to continuously using digital services like Zoom. So time is yours, Christine.
Perfect, thank you. So did we predict this scenario? Definitely not. But were we prepared for the future? Yes, and it actually is quite funny because with all of my clients early on, I would always go through these end of world scenarios. You know, if the zombie apocalypse happened, what would be our business continuity plan, how the architecture worked? And I just remember when everything hit in the pandemic, I went back to a lot of those conversations going, okay, I know this works, but here we go in the biggest kind of stress test of all time. So for those of you that do not know my background, I started at Zoom in early 2015. At that point in time, we were just 40 employees, 40 total employees. So I built our education vertical from the ground up and also wore a lot of hats in many areas because to that point, we were very much a startup culture. But why we were created was actually a driver from Eric Yuan, our CEO and founder. He previously wanted to create WebEx 2.0 when he was there, and Cisco said, no, we're not going to do that. So he took the top engineers to create Zoom. And the reason why he built this video-centric platform that was easy to utilize, first and foremost, comes from a very touching story. He wanted to be able to see his then girlfriend, who is now his wife, at the time, when they were at university. And in order to do so, it was a very, very long train ride where, you know, he would have to sleep standing up, could only otherwise communicate with her and see her a couple times a year. So what brought me to Zoom, and I was previously at lynda.com and LinkedIn Learning, and I'll go into my background because it goes even more diverse than just the education space. But he had this beautiful saying that he created this because he said, you know, if I could just see her, if I could just give her a hug, I think that would be great. And so that really was the ethos of our platform, to create as seamless of a video interaction, as seamless as a communication interaction, where the technology would not get in the way of that communication, of that connection. And so everything that we have done over the course of time has been focused solely on our user-centric experience. And a lot of that, again, has to do with Eric knew that the architecture built in the 90s, while great back then, was not built to scale for the future. So as we continue to expand Zoom, and we are more than meetings, more than what you are used to Zoom today, which we've been doing previously, we have been around again for many years prior to becoming a household name, is, you know, always centered around having a very strong architecture so that if you have limited bandwidth, the audio quality still comes through, the video quality still comes through. So fast forward to when the pandemic hit, we were prepared to help society. Now, what I will say, it was still a very small team of us. And I'm sure as all of you out there, it's relative to each and every one of you and the things that we were asked to do that we were never asked to do before.
Interesting one. So I heard you also acting as the head of women, and I've heard like a couple of stories on women empowerment program here in Sosial. Would you mind sharing us a bit on the programs?
Absolutely. So I also had Women at Zoom, which was our very first employee resource group. Over the course of time at Zoom, I watched this sort of launch and fail, launch and fail, launch and fail, and I always asked myself, why? And it was because everything was centered around, not to say a contrived sense of belonging, but not a true sense of belonging. So in early 2020, I was actually going to go on my world tour then to launch Women at Zoom in our various regional offices, and then everything hit. And we know that typically and globally, women are usually juggling quite a number of roles, especially on the home front. So it really had a strong effect when suddenly all of these things are confronted in your home life. So we shifted focus to really just creating programs around getting to be your whole human self at work, which is something that we just didn't hear from before. You have your home life, you have your work self, and those live separately. So we started to implement sessions to focus on things like breath work, meditation, taking a moment to write and reflect, and probably our most popular was a session to just check in and chat with whatever may be present. So it could be positive, it could be negative, and what we saw over time was that women were able to open up, and allies, because allies are welcome as well. So people were able to open up more about their true selves, which also helped enable them to be more engaged in the workplace. So just recently, I was at our Singapore office, and we hosted an event with our women in tech, so that encompassed our employees, our partners, our clients, joining together in a hybrid event, which was very exciting for me to get to be part of, and with also our colleagues and clients in the Philippines. And so we brought in and we used our Zoom Room solution to connect at a restaurant, at a location, and be able to have a panel discussion, which just shows the power of this technology that just because you're not able to physically be located somewhere does not mean that you need to miss out. And we had women that needed to be home for family reasons or for work reasons. So very powerful. And also I'm looking forward to developing our programs out further, which is also why I'm here getting to visit with you all in person.
Great. Thank you, Christy. So I'm coming up to Pak Setiaji now. So Pak, naturally as the consumption pattern times on, so does the public expectation towards the public services from the government, both at the national and also the province level. Yeah. So consumers are now accustomed to the services which is more faster, seamless, or even more integrated than ever before. So this, of course, begs a question: how does the government's framework, policy, and approach toward this adapting these changes, especially from the Ministry of Health point of view? Silakan, Pak Setiaji.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I will share about the perspective from the healthcare. Before I from the local and then joined to the Ministry of Health last year. Actually, from the local and national level, same issues. First, about the people, and also the people. I mean the competencies to know about the cloud. Yeah. Before I have experience in West Java. I inform about the cloud, but the mindset of the cloud only save like a Google Drive. Yeah. But I need 3 months to bring them about what is the cloud. The cloud is not only about how we can save the data into the cloud, but the cloud more than that. And we need to improve our human resource, and also within the IWS I think more than 1 month. Yeah. So we have some close collaboration with AWS to introduce what is the cloud itself. And then after this, after we know more about the cloud, and then we move all of our on-premises into the cloud. Yeah. And then the other thing is about the auditors, because the mindset of auditors, we need the physically infrastructures. We can see the infrastructures physically, so we need to change the mindset. Yeah. Not only about how we can put the budget from the capex into the opex, and then to make sure to give some information and awareness about the cloud to the auditors. Yeah. The cloud is not in here, but still in Indonesia. And then now move to the healthcare sectors. Yeah, when at the beginning COVID-19 arrived in Indonesia, earlier 2020. Yeah, actually in Ministry of Health have application to handle COVID first, how we can to detect the COVID-19 for more fast, yeah, using some applications. And then the issue is about the data, data discrepancy. Because we have many, we have many city, many regions. It's around 500, and the data itself is not flowing from the bottom into the top. So we need to what the issue, because the issue is about the system is very slowly to input. We need more than 5 minutes for one patient. So we improve the system, more simplification, and then we move to the cloud. Yeah, because the capacity for our because before they still rely with the own infrastructures, yeah, on the premises. Why? Because the issue still same, the security and also the competency and the others. And then after we move to the cloud and also to improve our system, and we can more fast for the input before 5 minutes, but and then we fix into the only 30 seconds to input one patient. And then after this, we can collect 5 times. Before we daily only 100,000, and then we increasing the daily input more than 400,000. And then after this, we can get contact tracing, yeah, after this, because the important thing when COVID is how we can search and explore the peoples for the contact tracings, yeah, for fast. And then the other thing is about the connecting with the Peduli Lindungi. You know, Peduli Lindungi now more than 100 million downloaded, and every day more than 8 million people use this Peduli Lindungi. Yeah, if we still rely with our own data centers, I think we can use these infrastructures. Because of that, we use the cloud, because as you know, the cloud, we can double capacity, auto scale, and also we can, not only the double capacity, but also we can mix with the multi-cloud and etc. Actually, now we mix from the Peduli Lindungi not only in PDN. PDN is the government cloud, and also within other private sector. So we use this multi-cloud actually, like iOS. We have the 3 region also in Peduli Lindungi app, because the size of the Peduli Lindungi is very big.
Interesting. A bit follow-ups, Pak Setiaji, on the Peduli Lindungi app. Yeah, can you share a bit on the behind the story of the Peduli Lindungi app? Like how many teams were there when building and launching the app, and then how was the meeting go back and forth with the provider like the Amazon and etc.
Yeah, Peduli Lindungi found in 2020. Yeah, before the Peduli Lindungi is a single alone the apps. Not connected with the vaccine and also the tested. Yeah. And then after we connect with the tested and also the vaccine status, and then we use this for the screening people when enter the public area like a mall, office, and etc. And then Peduli Lindungi itself used for the COVID apps. Actually, this is the COVID apps, and we put more information on top of that. And then Peduli Lindungi, after we integrated all of the system from the Peduli Lindungi, and also we integrated with the telemedicine apps like Halodocs, Doctor, etc. Actually, we already integrated with the 17 telemedicine operators, like Halodocs. And then we use this for the Isoman. Isoman is for the people who got the COVID, and then they do like a self-quarantine. So we give them like some consultation, use the telemedicine, and then after this we send and deliver the medicine for free. So because of that, the COVID-19 in Indonesia now more decreasing, because no need for people who got COVID to hospital. They can still get the consultation, use the teleconsultation, and also get the medicine from the governments. And then now for the Peduli Lindungi, actually I forgot, for the Peduli Lindungi applications, we develop in our teams, yeah. Actually now we have around 200 people for the digital transformation office we established last year, and actually this is the startup but in the government. They do like a startup for the development skill and etc. Actually I hijack some people also from the startup, so I compete with the startup to get the best talent from other startup. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Setia. I'm coming up to Pak Ngurah ya, Pak ya. So the Bali tourism sector had, of course, struggled due to the pandemic. And can you please share with us some insight? How does the pandemic impacted the Bali tourism, and how does the digital framework, digital policy from the governments of Bali can help support and then change it up to now, Pak Ngurah? Jadi ceritanya gimana nih Pak, dari zaman pandemi tourism sektor itu impacted, dan kemudian bagaimana pemerintah Provinsi Bali bisa bantu itu dengan solusi-solusi ataupun kebijakan digital ya. Silakan.
Thank you, Mr. Amin. It is okay for me to explain in Bahasa Indonesia,
Yeah.
to deliver more understanding to the audience. Please, Mr. Amin, translate to other audience in English.
Yeah.
Oke, mungkin saya menyapa dulu ya, Bapak Ibu semua. Selamat siang Bapak dan Ibu. Selamat siang yang di belakang, kayaknya adik-adik muda-muda semua di belakang. Selamat siang. Ya, jadi biasanya kalau udah mendekati siang, Pak, jam makan siang, semua sudah mulai mengeluarkan ajian ilmu padinya, Pak. Jadi makin berisi, makin merunduk. Jadi saya ingin menyapa dulu terutama adik-adik muda di belakang ya, karena yang muda-muda ini, Pak, biasanya garda terdepan dalam transformasi digital. Jadi tepuk tangan dulu.
Boleh dong tepuk tangan.
Jadi situasinya mirip dengan Pak Setiaji tadi sampaikan, kalau di Digital Transformation Officer di Kemenkes itu mungkin 200 people, kalau di kita itu ada sekitar 30 orang, Pak, yang memang seperti in-house developernya for the governments. Jadi kita beruntung di Pemprov Bali, kebetulan sudah menetapkan roadmap SPBE, Pak, kita susun di akhir tahun 2019. Kemudian kita tetapkan di bulan Januari 2020, bulan Februari kita melakukan rekrutmen untuk bisa mendapatkan talenta-talenta digital. Karena kalau kita lihat mekanisme, maaf saya juga PNS, kalau kita lihat mekanisme rekrutmen ASN itu sifatnya masih, izin Pak Setiaji, seleksinya umum. Seperti tahun kemarin ada seleksi peranata komputer, itu sudah ada 20 tahun yang lalu gitu. Mungkin izin dari Kementerian Kominfo jika ada di sini mungkin bisa menyampaikan. Kita juga mesti menyesuaikan itu. Jadi mau nggak mau kita akhirnya melakukan rekrut, karena itu tidak bisa ditopang oleh SDM yang ada di Pemprov. Seperti sekarang dari kita menyaring seluruh SDM, kita hanya mendapatkan 9 orang ASN yang memiliki kompetensi, memang bisa eksekusi dalam hal to develop an application dan lain sebagainya, Pak. Jadi memang permasalahan kita adalah di SDM, dan kita beruntung karena adanya roadmap yang kita tetapkan di Januari 2020, Pak. Bulan Februari kita rekrut tim, akhirnya waktu itu kita rekrut tim 11 orang, Pak. Kemudian tepat sebulan sebelum pandemi kita sudah punya tim in-house developer. Kemudian bulan Maret pertengahan kalau tidak salah pandemi ditetapkan, semua pegawai libur. Akhirnya tuntutan kepada kita tinggi, bagaimana kita bisa develop an application in short times ya. Jadi waktu itu kita bangun sistem single sign on, akhirnya kita bangun hospitality media center, karena semua orang ada di rumah, hoak mulai bertebaran, bagaimana kita bisa menjadi media bagi masyarakat. Akhirnya itu sistem yang pertama kita bangun. Kemudian waktu itu belum ada hak, Pak, belum ada implementasi peduli lindungi. Sehingga waktu itu tugas tim kita yang pertama di bulan Maret adalah membangun sistem cek diri, Pak. Jadi pegawai-pegawai khususnya di Kominfo itu berjaga di pintu masuk, Pak, di Bandara Ngurah Rai, di Gilimanuk, di Padang Bayi. Jadi semua orang yang masuk Bali itu dicek, Pak, harus didata. Kemudian kita bangun sistem di desa-desa, Pak, sehingga orang itu bisa tahu dia ini akan ke desa mana. kemudian kita hubungkan ke puskesmas Pak, sehingga puskesmasnya bisa ngecek, oh orang ini datang ke Bali, akan ada di desa mana, di puskesmas mana, seperti itu Pak. Baru kemudian sebulannya ada IHAK Pak, ada IHAK, kemudian nyambung Peduli Lindungi, akhirnya di bulan Agustus 2021 ya Pak ya, pemerintah Provinsi Bali join sepenuhnya ke platform yang disediakan oleh pemerintah pusat, dari trackingnya, dari stagingnya, dari treatmentnya di rumah sakit dan seterusnya. Jadi memang tantangan kita di awal pandemi itu, karena kita belum tahu ini COVID ini barangnya apa. Mungkin 2 tahun lalu berbeda cara kita menghadapi COVID ya, dengan yang sekarang. Kalau 2 tahun lalu kita ketemu orang lihat batuk aja, wah takut kan ya. Takut, tapi kalau sekarang kan mungkin it's okay ya, seperti flu biasa. Jadi tantangan saat itu adalah gimana kita bisa membangun sejumlah sistem dalam waktu yang singkat dan bisa digunakan oleh masyarakat Pak. Nah, kita waktu itu kita sudah punya Pak pusat data on premise yang memang sudah ada di 2010. Nah, setelah kita implementasi sejumlah layanan, ternyata tidak bisa dari sisi availability-nya, scalability-nya. Nah, di sana yang tidak bisa dipenuhi oleh on premise Pak. Teman-teman kita yang lagi tugas di Gilimanuk, lagi tugas di Padang Bayi, lagi tugas di Bandara Ngurah Rai, tiba-tiba tengah malam mati Pak. Mati 1 jam itu sudah kelabakan, jangankan 1 jam, mungkin beberapa menit aja sudah kewalahan kita. Maka dari itu akhirnya arahan pimpinan bagaimana kita bisa membangun aplikasi yang bisa memberikan layanan 24/7. Akhirnya kita mulai explore beberapa layanan cloud Pak, beberapa layanan cloud kita uji coba, dan akhirnya kita berlabuh di AWS Pak. Jadi terima kasih banyak. Jadi dengan kita menggunakan cloud sama dengan Pak Setiaji, kita sudah, ini juga penting ya untuk anak-anak muda terutama ya, mungkin yang masih kuliah, ini cloud ini masa depan loh. Cloud ini masa depan karena dia bisa menawarkan apapun ya Pak ya. Jadi dengan cloud kita bisa fokus pada inovasi Pak, inovasi layanan. Sama seperti kemarin waktu pandemi Pak. Jadi waktu itu, saya lupa mungkin sekitar bulan Juni-Juli ya, case yang di Bali itu tinggi Pak. Jadi tiap hari ada kasus sekitar 1.000 orang positif. Nah, otomatis 1.000 orang positif, ini dampaknya macam-macam. Kapasitas karantina meningkat. Kemudian 1.000 orang ini harus dirawat minimum 14 hari di rumah sakit. Kemudian isunya adalah kekurangan oksigen Pak. Di mana waktu itu BPBD Bali dan Dinas Kesehatan menuntut kami di Kominfo, kamu harus bisa membangun aplikasi monitoring oksigen secepat mungkin. Waktu itu kita dituntut harus bisa implementasi dalam waktu 3 hari Pak. Dan itu kayaknya impossible jika kita masih menggunakan server on-premise Pak. Jadi kita sudah nggak berpikir tentang infrastruktur, kita berpikir pada layanan. Akhirnya kita bangun itu sistemnya, di mana waktu itu kebutuhan oksigen, saya masih ingat rapat dengan Dinas Kesehatan, yang awalnya 50 ton per minggu, waktu status COVID di Bali sampai 1.000, 1.500, 1.700 itu kebutuhannya 50 ton per hari. Jadi bayangkan yang harusnya itu bisa memenuhi 1 minggu, ini harus bisa kita cukupkan dalam 1 hari. Artinya yang 50 ton ini harus kita bisa prioritaskan. Vaskes mana yang memang paling urgent Pak. Waktu itu hitungannya sudah tidak lagi hari Pak. Dalam 1 jam ke depan sudah muncul alert, vaskes ini akan habis oksigennya. Dalam 30 menit ke depan rumah sakit ini akan habis oksigennya. Jadi bayangkan sistem itu akhirnya mampu menyelamatkan nyawa Pak. Jujur saja, jadi sistem monitoring oksigen ini kita bangun dalam waktu 3 hari, umurnya pun pendek, tapi paling bermanfaat. Dan dia digunakan oleh semua vaskes. Dan saya tidak terbayang jika kita masih menggunakan server yang konvensional saat ini, server on-premise, kita masih berpikir tentang bagaimana scalability-nya dan seterusnya. Tolong ingatkan kalau waktu saya sudah habis, karena kalau udah sharing ini banyak ceritanya Pak.
Stop dulu pelan-pelan di situ Pak, nanti kita lanjut lagi Pak.
Oke.
Siap.
Sudah nih Pak?
Untuk saat ini dulu.
Oke, baik.
Thank you Pak Ngurah. So that's a long one to translate actually.
I said I wasn't going to steal your story.
Karena kalau saya sudah cerita ya ceritanya nyambung kan, nyambung. Makanya saya ingatkan lagi.
Basically that's a summary on how digital transformation happened in Bali, Chris and Max. So also I would like to greet Pak Niko Harjanto, Special Staff of State Secretary. Welcome Pak Niko for your attendance in Bali. Makasih. And also before moving on to the next question, I heard Pak Setiaji harus kejar flight kah? Okay, he will excuse himself ya Pak ya. Okay, so thank you again Pak Setiaji because he need to catch his flight now. So thank you. And I believe
maybe one minute or 2 minutes to ngasih closing lah. Ya, mungkin thank you for having me today. Actually, we want to transform Peduli Lindungi into the citizen health app. We will connect not only COVID for the Peduli Lindungi, but others COVID, so the people can access their medical record into the Peduli Lindungi. Now we with with the Bali and also in region for the Jawa Bali to connect with the more than 12,000. Our targets in this year is 12,000 will be connect with the Satu Sehat. Actually, we developed the platform Health Information Exchange. We call this Satu Sehat. In the platform, we have some standards. For example, using the fires and also some terminologies, ICD-10, SNOMED, and etc. And then after this, we will connect within the 12,000 health facility. Our target actually 60,000. You know, we have the 60,000 health facility. So how big in Indonesia? So we need more support from your side, from the IDWS, and also from all of the institution and organization, especially the Sarab, to connect with the Satu Sehat. And then the other thing, we also have a biogenomic initiative. Actually, this is we will collect more than 100,000 Indonesian people to collect the biogenomics, and then we will mix the biogenomic and also the clinician. So we will develop the precision medicine in the futures. So I think the cloud is very important thing for us to support the acceleration digital healthcare in Indonesia. Thank you.
Pak, sedikit bocoran boleh nggak? Sampai kapan sih kita masih pakai Peduli Lindungi untuk masuk ke mall? Ada bocoran?
Yeah, I think not stop from pandemi saja ya. Because Peduli Lindungi transform to the citizen health app. So we will continue using the Peduli Lindungi.
Terima kasih Pak Setiaji, terima kasih. Tepuk tangan. Baik. Silakan Pak, safe flight. Ya, Pak Ngurah mungkin bisa sedikit ke arah sini Pak duduknya Pak. Iya, makasih. Okay, so Max and Chris, so it's 2022 and things have certainly changed ever since the wave of pandemic swept through the nations. So some people say that this is a new era and time for omni-channel. So I would like to have your thoughts on that, your views on that, and why don't you take the first one, Chris?
So there's a reason why I'm also here
Okay.
in person. I'll put it this way. There is such a huge opportunity. I know it was expressed earlier. I truly also believe that the future that we will be in and the solutions for that future will come from regions such as here, and acknowledging the unique challenges, because also acknowledging within each country, each location, each region has its own challenges, but there are so many innovative ideas that come through that. So part of my role now is to help bridge the gap and connections between government entities, businesses, and universities, institutions, and ministries of education to help come to the solutions to really help empower the ideas that are out there and unblock that from a technology standpoint. So even as I was just sitting here, one of the things that we have been working on is our language translation capabilities. And we're still in our early stages of how this develops out, but when we think of our events platform providing hybrid events, the ability that each and every one could translate to whatever language is being spoken into your language of choice is huge, because across the globe, that has always been one of the biggest barriers to being able to share our unique cultures and values and actually really celebrate each other, as well as come together on how we solve the big problems in the world. So again, we've been busy in these areas. The other area I would say that we're seeing, is in our phone application, and we have great partnerships with Telkomsel and others, but really what takes that to the next level in communication. So to pause for a moment, but to go back a little in time, my background in addition to education and technology was also very vast in the retail space, where we used to go train stores, lower performing stores, on best practices. So I always come from this lens. In addition to that, I was also in theater arts and performing arts in the music space, and also in psychology, and currently taking integrated healthcare courses. So kind of getting back to this omni-channel thought process is really how we come together to work together to create frictionless communication, frictionless experience. And that's been a big part of Zoom as we've continued to develop, as things have been going on over the course of time. And what we're seeing now is that not only businesses, individuals, corporations, schools, students are able to leverage our developer platform and SDKs and APIs to really integrate with anything that they want to build. And so we're really seeing an opportunity here where, one, we've seen these excel in all areas beyond education, so this is across all areas of business, but really starting to, again, create the frictionless experience so that you're not having to access multiple platforms in order to achieve your goal, because that is just not sustainable at the end of the day. And that is why it is so essential that we work together and not be building in silos, because in order to do that, it does require collaboration. And I love what was said earlier. We got to move out of the competitive space into the collaboration space. I love it, collaboration with compassion. This really does take all of us stepping up to be leaders, and there is so much out there to do that there's no shortage of work to do. So I also love what was echoed earlier on the importance of uniqueness and value, and how important that is to really create true value and meaning. And I think that comes from, again, centering around what drives your individual passions, and how do we also inspire others to uncover their individual passions to solve these micro and macro problems in the world.
Thank you, Chris. And Max, how does the Amazon Web Services see the market, Southeast Asia, Indonesia in particular, after the pandemic?
Well, the first thing I would say is that we see Indonesia as an incredible opportunity. So we opened our office here in 2018. In 2019, we made a commitment to skills, to developing digital skills, cloud skills, because that's going to be the foundation of so much of what we're all talking about here. By this year, we've trained over 200,000 Indonesians in modern digital skills and cloud technologies. And that was super important because in December of 2021, we launched the AWS Cloud region. And it's a long-term big commitment. It's going to be about $5 billion over 15 years. So when I hear the stories about the Bali province and how fast they were able to really implement digital government, that just gives me incredible optimism. Imagine if every municipality, every province all across Indonesia could make that journey in 1 year. I mean, that would be an incredible result for all of the citizens, the students, for patients. So it just gives me incredible optimism about the ability for Indonesia and the region to be leaders in the space of digital government.
Great, thank you, Max. Pak Ngurah, kita kembali.
Ada waktu ya?
Iya, oke. Tadi sedikit terpotong ceritanya.
Lagi serunya.
Lagi seru-serunya. Kita juga ngobrol tadi mengenai caranya gimana sih Pemprov Bali dalam tanda kutip nge-push ya ASN-nya ataupun para karyawannya untuk kemudian bisa lebih digital gitu. Saya dengar tadi ceritanya ada time attendance story itu. Boleh cerita sedikit nggak buat teman-teman di sini, Pak?
Oke. Baik, terima kasih Pak Armin. Jadi kami bersyukur ya memiliki pimpinan yang visinya sangat ke depan, mulai dari Bapak Gubernur kan prinsipnya one island, one management. Nah, dari prinsip itu artinya semua harus integrate. Kalau kita lihat fase pengembangan transformasi digital di pemerintahan kan fasenya adalah government dulu, habis itu electronic government. Electronic government jadinya proses apapun hanya sekedar memindahkan ke elektronik, tapi belum terintegrasi, kemudian baru integrated, nyambung antar antar perangkat daerah, baru kemudian smart government. Jadi dari visinya Pak Gubernur memang One Island, One Management, kemudian diawasi sangat intensif oleh Bapak Sekretaris Daerah kami, jadi mereka memberi ruang kami untuk eksplorasi, termasuk juga salah satunya mengembangkan sejumlah sistem yang digunakan di pemerintah Provinsi Bali. Salah satunya Pak, yang tadi Bapak tanya, yaitu sistem absensi dan kantor virtual pegawai. Karena tidak mungkin kita bicara mentransformasikan masyarakat ke digital sebelum pegawainya sendiri bertransformasi dalam kesehariannya secara digital. Bagaimana kemudian pegawai itu bisa membuat lahan kepimpinan terkait digitalisasi jika dirinya sendiri dalam kesehariannya belum open mind atau belum menggunakan layanan yang digital. Maka dari itu kami di Pemprov saat ini semua pegawai ASN, non-ASN itu wajib menggunakan terhubung ke yang pertama itu loginnya single sign on. Yang kedua setiap pegawai wajib absen Pak, absen dengan face record baik ASN maupun non-ASN. Ketika dia berhasil absen artinya dia sudah berhasil login dari yang sederhana aja. Ketika dia berhasil login artinya dia sudah bisa verifikasi email. Walaupun saat ini masih banyak pegawai yang mungkin masih kesulitan membuka email, tapi itu menjadi keharusan baginya. Karena kalau dia tidak absen, artinya tunjangannya tidak dibayar begitu. Nah, maka dari itu jadinya semua pegawai pun berupaya untuk belajar, Kemudian yang kedua, kita juga mengembangkan yang sebelumnya awal pandemi kita mengembangkan layanan hanya persuratan elektronik. Di bulan Maret kemarin kita kembangkan lebih luas ke kantor virtual pegawai. Jadi tidak hanya masalah persuratan elektronik, tapi juga agenda elektronik pegawai, monitoring penugasan pegawai. Jadi sekarang Bapak Sekda kami, Pak, ketika ada surat masuk, didisposisi ke perangkat daerah A, dan perangkat daerah itu belum baca, akan muncul daftar. Minggu lalu Pak Sekda mengingatkan ini daftar pimpinan perangkat daerah yang belum membaca disposisi saya, belum memprogres disposisi saya, belum menyelesaikan disposisi saya. Ketika ada strong leadership di atas, maka ini akan menular ke jenjang di bawahnya Pak. Maka di lingkup Kadis pun akan melihat di tingkat eselon 3-nya, ini siapa yang belum respon, siapa yang belum tingkatannya kalau saat ini adalah membaca dulu, habis itu memprogres penugasan, habis itu menyelesaikan penugasan. Nah, jadi dengan demikian pegawai sendiri harus dibuka dulu mindsetnya terkait digitalisasi sebelum mereka membuat policy di bidang digitalisasi untuk masyarakat, Pak. Jadi seperti itu kira-kira, Pak Armin.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Ngurah. Luar biasa ceritanya. Boleh tepuk tangannya, Bapak Ibu. Okay, I believe our session has come to an end, but before we closing to that, I would like to invite each panelist to share her closing statements. Maybe starting from Max, and then Chris, kemudian Pak Ngurah.
Well, I wish I knew Balinese or Indonesian better, because I could just sense the excitement in the story that you were telling, and it just makes me excited again to think about that. I would tell you, I think the biggest opportunity is that by leveraging modern cloud technologies like this, it helps everybody move toward digital government much faster. A recent study in ASEAN showed that using cloud instead of old legacy systems resulted in 25% savings in cost, so you can do more with less money. It resulted in 29% faster development. And so you talked about how quickly you were able to build new systems and then deploy those to people. So 29% faster, but really importantly, it allows people to be much more productive. We just don't have all of the people with the right skills that we need. And when you use cloud computing, it allowed people to be 41% more productive. So when we look at the opportunity in digital government, it's clear that where you're able to leverage cloud, you can move faster, you can save money, and your team is more productive and likes it. So I think that's a really important takeaway from the stories that we've heard here today.
Great, thanks, Max. Christy?
Well, I'll cover this. That I want to say that speaking specifically to our Indonesian audience, which I believe is most here, but also to the local region, huge props, because to be able to digitize so quickly and to see that this is where, we all had to do this in pretty quick scale, but this is where we get to really partner together to help accelerate that further and create sustainability. And what I want to say is that, here in Indonesia and here in the region, it's the people, each and every one here and each and everyone out there in their country. The people are so good, right? So it's like when we can empower our people to be productive, to tap into their true life's purpose, and allow the technology not to get in the way of that, but allow that to enhance them to, again, create the business that they want to thrive, or to come together to solve a local problem or a world problem, that we're able to do that. That's where the magic happens, and it's really tying again back into getting to be your whole human self. And so what I want to say as a closing note here is thank you all for being here today. Thank you for being leaders in this space. There is no shortage of work to do, and as I like to say, thank you for being on mission Make the World Brighter.
Thank you, Christy. Bapak Ngurah, boleh nggak Pak, kisah penutup atau harapan mungkin buat stakeholder di Bali untuk perjalanan digitalnya bisa lebih kuat, lebih inklusif lagi, kira-kira apa?
Digital transformation is not only just about hardware and software, not only just the narrations, but it's all about our mindset, our mindset to deliver something faster, to deliver something to give the citizen can get the benefits, to deliver the public service better. I think it's more like that. Thank you.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Ngurah. Terima kasih juga untuk tepuk tangannya dan juga kehadiran rekan-rekan ya sampai sesi yang terakhir. So thank you, dear panelists, for your time and insight. I wish you all have a great time here in Bali other than these meetings. Okay, so I'm handing this over to our MC, Mbak Tisma. Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to invite for the photo session. Ladies and gentlemen, please give round a big applause to our expert speakers and moderator for the third panel session discussing about digital government. What a very enlightenment discussion today that we have about digital government. Let's take a photo together. Our honorable speakers and amazing moderators, thank you for sharing the insight and inputs about the digital government. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very important things for us to support the digital acceleration in government because it's powered up the advancement and transformation of government institutions, the public sector ecosystem, and its service delivery capabilities. Okay, thank you. Thank you once again to our speakers and moderators. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a productive day for us with a fruitful of discussion with the 3-panel session this very beautiful day. And now we have come to the end of the G20 Digital Transformation Expo parallel event, Digital Industry Collaboration to Enhancing Digital Transformation. On behalf of the host and the organizing committee, we would like to extend our appreciation for your tremendous support and for your active participation during this event. We hope the discussion could contribute to our common goals toward digital transformation, especially by accelerating the healthy and supportive digital environment to bringing a significant impact on society and economy and opening up new opportunities and collaboration in the digital environment. Ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap things up, please allow us to invite the participants to enjoy the lunch at Kunyit Restaurant at the Anfaya Beach Resort Bali and have a networking session. Enjoy your lunch. As we Indonesians say, selamat menikmati. My name is Tismaniar as your MC signing out. Thank you for having me. And please allow me to close once again with pantun. Boleh saya tutup dengan pantun, Bapak Ibu? Karena kita penutup nanti bilang cakepnya harus yang paling keras ya. Baik. Bunga melati, bunga akasia. Buah semangka, buah alpukat. Maju terus digital transformasi Indonesia, pulih lebih cepat, bangkit lebih kuat. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi 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 Om.